Chapter 524. Attack cough cough. The Dark Emperor coughed dryly twice, then coldly said to Poison Scorpion, "You don't feel good now either, do you? Do you think you can guarantee your safety just by sealing off the veins on your right wrist? I can tell you very clearly, you are too naive. If you want to live, you only have two choices. First, abandon your right hand. Second, find a peak yin-yang stage martial artist to treat your injuries." Hearing the threatening words of the Dark Emperor, a hint of coldness surfaced in Poison Scorpion's eyes. As a martial artist at the peak of the late yin-yang stage, Poison Scorpion was very clear about his injuries. Although the Dark Emperor was exaggerating, in reality, the strength he could use right now was only 60% of his peak strength. "Humph! Before that, I'll take your head first." Poison Scorpion snorted coldly, then rose from the ground and charged towards the Dark Emperor. Poison Scorpion's speed was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he appeared beside the Dark Emperor and threw a punch towards the Dark Emperor's head. In order to kill the Dark Emperor in one move, Poison Scorpion did not hold back and used his full strength. Swish! 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 However, just as Poison Scorpion's fist was about to land on the Dark Emperor's body, the Alchemist Hall Master and the others who were recuperating on the other side suddenly moved. The Dark Emperor had bought the Alchemist Hall Master and the others 2 minutes to recuperate. Although 2 minutes was not long, it was enough for the Alchemist Hall Master to recover. If a Peak Yuan Dan Black Dog could go all out, then, if the Alchemist Hall Master and the others did not go all out, they would not have a good ending when Ningyu came out. Therefore, when they saw Poison Scorpion rushing towards the Dark Emperor, even Evil Eye and Ling Mian instantly took action, blocking in front of the Dark Emperor. Bang! 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 Poison Scorpion was indeed a martial artist at the peak of the late yin-yang stage. Facing the three figures that suddenly appeared in front of him, he did not retreat but instead attacked 3 times. After being hit by Poison Scorpion's fist, the Alchemist Hall Master and the others were not affected much. Instead, they fought with Poison Scorpion. If it was the Poison Scorpion at his peak, the Alchemist Hall Master and the others would naturally not be able to withstand his fist. Right now, Poison Scorpion only had 60% of his peak strength, and his aura faintly showed signs of decreasing to the late yin-yang stage. In this state, Poison Scorpion was firmly suppressed by the combined forces of the Alchemist Hall Master and the others. "I'm going to die of anger. I'm going to die of anger." At this moment, Scorpion was furious to the extreme. Originally, he thought that after getting rid of an Empress, the remaining Alchemist Hall Master and the others would not be a threat. Now, it seemed that he had been thinking too much. The Alchemist Hall Master and the others all had their own trump card. Needless to say, the Alchemist Temple Master's cultivation had reached the peak of the yin-yang late stage, and even the strength of his soul power had reached the early stage. Evil Eye. His pair of evil eyes were abnormally terrifying. If one was the slightest bit careless, they would fall into his trap. Cold Face could be said to be the person Scorpion understood the most. However, even Scorpion couldn't see through this person who understood him the most. The combat power that Ling Mian unleashed was beyond his usual state. It could be described as extraordinary. The only thing we can do now is to pass the news to Old Crane. Only then will we have a chance of survival. Scorpion knew that a prolonged battle like this would only be disadvantageous to him. The moment his cultivation dropped to late-stage yin-yang realm, he would be like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, a fish on the chopping block waiting to be slaughtered. Rumble! In the next moment, Scorpion forcefully blasted out a fist radiance, forcing the Alchemist Hall Master and the others away. Then, Scorpion grabbed at the air with his left hand. In an instant, a spatial rift appeared. This is bad. We mustn't let Scorpion spread the news. Cold Face's eyes were filled with horror when he saw Scorpion's actions. He shouted, "Everyone, don't hold back. Once Old Crane finds out about what happened here, we'll be annihilated." Old Crane was a martial artist at the peak of the yin-yang realm. His strength was not something Scorpion could compare to. Cold Face was right. As long as Scorpion spread the news, with Old Crane's strength, he would probably arrive here in less than a minute. When that time came, they would have no chance of survival. Ha ha ha. You're only thinking of stopping me now? Don't you think it's a little too late? Scorpion threw his head back and laughed maniacally when he saw Ling Mian and the others acting as if they were facing a great enemy. Then, he flicked his sleeve and a cold ray of light shot into the spatial rift. Crack! Then, the spatial rift closed, and everything returned to normal. I've already sent the news to the Evil Cloud Pavilion. It won't take long for Old Crane to receive the news. Scorpion revealed an evil smile and said sinisterly, You have two choices. 1. Submit to me. 2. Die. Is there a third choice? The third choice, huh? Of course. Who? The corners of Scorpion's mouth curled up. Just as he was about to speak, his expression changed drastically. He looked around vigilantly and shouted, Come out, you sneaky bastard! As you wish. As soon as the cold voice fell, the space in midair suddenly split open. A huge sword wave that was as thick as a person's waist shot out explosively from the void. What? Scorpion's eyes revealed a trace of horror as he looked at the huge sword wave that was rapidly approaching him. This was because the violent primordial energy contained in the sword wave was even more than the total amount of primordial energy in his body. Monstrous primordial energy revolved around the sword wave and poured down. Protective barrier, activate. Scorpion's expression was extremely grave. Primordial energy gushed out of his body like it was free, forming a protective barrier around him. Moreover, to be on the safe side, Scorpion took out the top-grade heaven-grade flying sword that he carried with him. It hovered above his head and formed a second line of defense. After the second line of defense was formed, Scorpion was still worried. He forced out a few drops of blood essence and formed a third line of defense on the surface of his skin. Scorpion's eyes revealed a hint of ferocity after the third line of defense was formed. As long as I can withstand this sword wave, I'll kill all of you at all costs, Scorpion said viciously. Chi. Chi. However, as soon as Scorpion's vicious words fell, a crisp sound rang out in the hall. What? Scorpion's eyes widened, and his face was filled with disbelief. He discovered that the primordial energy protective barrier he had set up had dissipated into thin air the moment it came into contact with the sword wave. One had to know that he had poured all the primordial energy in his body into the protective barrier. How could it have been destroyed so easily? That's just too much nonsense. However, what surprised Scorpion even more was yet to come. After the sword wave destroyed the primordial energy protective barrier, it immediately blasted towards the top-grade heaven-grade flying sword above Scorpion's head. Crack! Without any fancy moves, the top-grade heaven-grade flying sword was instantly split into two by the sword wave. Seeing his top-grade heaven-grade flying sword split into two by the sword wave, Scorpion's eyes were filled with shock. Chapter 525. Kill. The flying sword that was destroyed by the sword wave was no ordinary flying sword. It was a top-grade heaven-grade flying sword. What kind of sword wave could be so powerful that it could destroy a top-grade heaven-grade flying sword in an instant? Scorpion was still in a daze when the sword wave came into contact with his skin. However, Scorpion's blood essence formed a third line of defense on the surface of his skin. For a moment, the sword wave could not break through his defense. Ha ha ha, I thought the sword wave would be powerful. I didn't expect it to be unable to break through my blood essence defense. Scorpion was already prepared to fight to the death. Who would have thought that the sword wave could not break through his blood essence defense? Is that so? As soon as Scorpion finished speaking, a crack appeared in the void, and a figure flew out from it. The martial artist who flew out was none other than Ning Yu. Scorpion, Do you really think I can't break through your blood essence defense? The corners of Ning Yu's lips curled up slightly, and a hint of disdain appeared between his brows. He said, I'll give you two choices now. Submit to me or die. As soon as the word die was said, Ning Yu made a grabbing motion in the void with both hands. A blood-red flying sword immediately appeared in his hand. In the next instant, the flying sword in Ning Yu's hand moved quickly. As the flying sword moved, a shocking sword wave that was no weaker than the previous one separated from the flying sword. Scorpion was dumbfounded when he saw the second sword wave appear in the air. A look of despair appeared on his face. The first sword wave had already broken through two of his defenses. If the second sword wave wanted to break through his blood essence defense, it would be as easy as pie. Poison Scorpion felt a little bitter in his mouth. If he didn't want to die, he could only choose to rely on Ning Yu. However, Scorpion was not someone who would give up easily. He said in a low voice, Ning Yu, don't be too happy. I've already sent the news to the Evil Cloud Pavilion. I believe Old Crane will be here soon. Ning Yu nodded, then took out a crystal ball from his bosom and said, The information you spoke of should be in this crystal ball, right? How did you get my crystal ball? That's impossible! Scorpion yelled as if he had seen a ghost. He had already thrown the crystal ball into the spatial crack, so how could Ning Yu have it? Ning Yu was only an intermediate primal core stage ancient martial art practitioner. Being able to grasp spatial energy at the intermediate primal core stage, wasn't this too abnormal? What Poisonous Scorpion didn't know was that the one controlling space wasn't Ning Yu, but the Red Demon Sword. The Red Fiend Sword was a pinnacle king rank flying sword. It could easily tear through the void for a short period of time. Nothing is impossible. In this world, everything is possible. Ning Yu shrugged, then exerted a little force on his wrist, and crushed the crystal ball. What shattered was not only the crystal ball, but also Scorpion's hope of survival. So, have you considered whether to submit to me or choose death? Ning Yu casually tossed the fragments of the crystal ball away and said calmly, My patience is limited. Submit to me and you can live. If you choose death, I can grant your wish now. You want me to submit to you? Dream on. Scorpion snorted coldly. This is the Evil Cloud Pavilion, as long as You're wasting my time. Before Scorpion could finish speaking, Ning Yu shouted in a low voice, and then he controlled the second sword wave to slash towards Scorpion. Pooh! The first sword wave was already about to break through Scorpion's blood essence defense. With the addition of the second sword wave, it naturally broke through Scorpion's blood essence defense easily. After breaking through Scorpion's blood essence defense, Ning Yu didn't intend to hold back. Instead, he controlled the two sword waves and slashed at Scorpion's neck and heart. Crack! Poochie! Two crisp sounds rang out in the hall. The first sword wave expended a lot, and Scorpion's body was also abnormally tough. Hence, the sword wave did not chop off Scorpion's head. It only penetrated a little deeper. As for the second sword wave, its power was incomparably powerful, directly piercing through Scorpion's heart. Ning Yu, you're not well. Scorpion stood on the spot and extended his hand to point at Ning Yu. He wanted to say something, but before he finished speaking, he fell to the ground with a thud. At this moment, the peak late-stage Yin-Yang Realm Scorpion was killed by Ning Yu. Silence. Silence. After Scorpion died, the entire hall became abnormally quiet, deathly silent. The Dark Emperor knew Ning Yu's strength, so he was not too shocked. The Alchemy Hall Master, Evil Eye, and the rest did not know that even though they were controlled by Ning Yu, they only obeyed Ning Yu on the surface all along. After all, Ning Yu had used crooked methods to control every single one of them, and had not defeated them head-on. Everything had undergone a subtle change after they saw Ning Yu kill Scorpion in a domineering manner. It turned out that Ning Yu's true strength was so strong. That was a peak late-stage Yin-Yang Realm cultivator. Ning Yu was able to kill him with his mid-stage Yuan core cultivation. If it was before, they would definitely not believe it. But now that they saw it with their own eyes, they had to believe it. Gulp. A moment later, the alchemy hall master was the first to swallow a mouthful of saliva. His eyes revealed a dignified expression. In just a short period of time, Ningyu had grown to the point where he could sit on the same level as him, or even a little stronger. If Ningyu was given more time, he might really be able to kill his way into the corpse sect. At this moment, such a thought appeared in the alchemy hall master's mind. What the alchemy hall master didn't know was that Ningyu had prepared for so long to use the solitaire of the ultimate state. In order to use the solitaire of the ultimate state, Ningyu's primordial qi had been used up. There was not even a trace of primordial qi left. Even the supreme primordial crystals in the storage ring had been used up by Ningyu. Otherwise, with the primordial qi in Ningyu's body, it would be difficult for him to use the solitaire of the ultimate state once, let alone a second time. He definitely wouldn't be able to use it. Focus on recuperating and wait for my order. After dealing with Scorpion, Ningyu first issued an order to the alchemy hall master and the others, then walked toward the Dark Emperor without looking back. Dark Emperor, Scorpion is a peak late-stage yin-yang realm cultivator. He must have a lot of treasures and pills on him. If you don't plunder them, I won't be polite. Not long after, Ningyu came to the Dark Emperor's side and said, "Scram! All the treasures and pills on Scorpion are mine. No one is allowed to take them." The Dark Emperor cursed and said angrily, "If it weren't for you, I—" The Dark Emperor stretched out his hand to warn Ningyu. However, it triggered the wounds on his body, and he let out a series of screams. "Rest assured and recuperate. I'll keep Scorpion for you. Without your permission, no one is allowed to plunder the treasures and pills on him." Ningyu waved his hand and gestured for the Dark Emperor to calm down. "Hurry up and go into the storage ring to recuperate. I'm counting on you to fight for me when I deal with Old Crane later." "Fight my ass. Old Crane is at the peak of yin-yang realm. I'm not that capable." The Dark Emperor's figure flashed, and he used all his strength to enter the storage ring. At the same time, the Dark Emperor's words rang in Ningyu's ears. Chapter 526. Sword Tomb. Of course. The supreme grade origin crystals in the storage ring can be. What? All the supreme grade origin crystals belong to you? Ningyu waved his hand when he heard the Dark Emperor's words. But soon, Ningyu came to his senses and said with a pained expression, "Dark Emperor, leave some for me. That's over 400,000 supreme grade origin crystals." If someone else said this, Ningyu might not have any reaction. Over 400,000 supreme grade origin crystals. A normal martial artist might not be able to use them all even after a year or so. But the Dark Emperor was different. He had once used up 200,000 supreme grade origin crystals in a month. Over 400,000 supreme grade origin crystals were not even enough for him to use for 2 months. The supreme grade origin crystals in the storage ring had already been used up by Sun Jiangwen. If the Dark Emperor monopolized the supreme grade origin crystals as well, Ningyu would really be penniless. "Why do you have so much to say? I'll leave some for you." The Dark Emperor's impatient voice sounded in Ningyu's ears. Ningyu was relieved after hearing the Dark Emperor's words. However, Ningyu was still worried. He secretly informed Sun Jiangwen and asked him to be careful. If necessary, he could hide some supreme grade origin crystals. Sun Jiangwen's face was bitter when he heard Ningyu's instructions. To him, this was a difficult and thankless task. He might offend both the Dark Emperor and Ningyu. Ningyu did not care what Sun Jiangwen thought. After arranging everything, he sat down with his legs crossed and began to cultivate using the spirit transformation technique. Although they had killed Poison Scorpion together, it also gave Ningyu a wake-up call. One must know that Poison Scorpion was only a martial artist at the peak of yin-yang stage. His strength was definitely a level lower than Elder Crane's. The hall master and the others could stop Poison Scorpion for 10 minutes, but they might not be able to stop Elder Crane for 10 minutes. As long as he couldn't stall Old Crane for 10 minutes, Ningyu wouldn't be able to unleash his ultimate state of solitaire. Without solitaire, it was impossible for him to defeat Old Crane. I need to think of a countermeasure. Ningyu recuperated while thinking of a countermeasure. Old Crane was a martial artist at the peak of the Yin-Yang realm. If he was not careful, they would all be wiped out. Ningyu had to be extra careful. Oh right. Suddenly, Ningyu seemed to have thought of something. Without any time to rest, he hurriedly went to Poison Scorpion's side and searched its body. This doesn't make sense. Both Elder Tan and Black Whirlwind have Thunder Explosion Pearls. Why doesn't Scorpion have any? After a short while, Ningyu stopped and frowned. After using a Lightning Explosion Pearl, Ningyu still had a low-grade Lightning Explosion Pearl on him. The explosion of a low-grade Lightning Explosion Pearl was equivalent to the self-detonation of a primary Yin-Yang realm martial artist. If he could get his hands on a few more Lightning Explosion Pearls, he might be able to get rid of old he. Lung Mian, I have a few questions for you. After a moment of silence, Ningyu asked Ling Mian, do you have any Lightning Explosion Pearls with you? Ling Mian was originally recuperating. When he heard Ningyu's question, he quickly replied, the Lightning Explosion Pearls are extremely precious. They are almost priceless. I don't have any with me. Does Poison Scorpion have any? Ningyu asked with a frown. Poison Scorpion has a middle-grade Lightning Explosion Pearl. As for where he keeps it, I don't know, Ling Mian replied. That's good. Ningyu thought about it and asked, do you know much about the Evil Cloud Pavilion? What I mean is, do you know where Poison Scorpion most likely keeps the Lightning Explosion Pearls? Ningyu added, afraid that Ling Mian did not understand what he meant. Poison Scorpion always carries a middle-grade Lightning Explosion Pearl with him. As for why he didn't bring it with him this time, I don't know. Ling Mian shook his head and changed the topic. However, I know a place that even Poison Scorpion can't enter. Oh! Ningyu raised his brow and said calmly, bring me there. One must be brave enough to take risks if one wanted to reap greater rewards. As the saying went, one must have ideals. Otherwise, what was the difference between one and a salted fish? Old Crane's cultivation base was at the peak of Yin-Yang stage. In terms of raw strength, Ningyu and the others did not have the upper hand. They had to think of a way to defeat or even kill Old Crane. Let's go. Ling Mian did not hesitate and immediately left the main hall with Ningyu. The Evil Cloud Pavilion was huge. That was Ningyu's first thought after leaving the main hall. Under normal circumstances, Ningyu would definitely take a good look at the Evil Cloud Pavilion. However, this was a critical period, so he had to remind Ling Mian to hurry up. Soon, Ningyu and Ling Mian stopped in front of a bronze door. Even Poison Scorpion can't enter this place? Looking at the bronze door in front of him, Ningyu was a little puzzled. Ningyu released his perception and found no waves of essence chi or soul power on the bronze door. In other words, the bronze door was just an ordinary stone door. There was nothing special about it. It's not difficult to open the bronze door. The difficult part is that there's a soul power barrier inside. Only those who have reached the pinnacle of soul power can enter. As he spoke, Ling Mian took a step forward and placed both hands on the bronze door, exerting a little force. Creak! As Ling Mian exerted force, the heavy bronze door was slowly pushed open. Soul power barrier. As soon as the bronze door was pushed open, Ningyu found a blurry barrier inside. To be precise, it was a blurry soul power barrier. Ningyu released a little of his soul power, wanting to probe the soul power barrier. However, as soon as his soul power came into contact with the barrier, Ningyu gasped. His soul power was actually devoured by the soul power barrier in front of him. It does have some skills. Ningyu frowned and said to Ling Mian, go back and recuperate first. When all of you have recovered to your peak state, come back here to find me. No problem. Although Ling Mian was not optimistic about Ning Yu being able to open the barrier, he did not show it. Instead, he responded and turned to leave. After Ling Mian left, Ning Yu once again separated a bit of his soul power and began to probe. However, this time, Ning Yu did not let his soul power come into contact with the barrier. Instead, he carefully probed around the barrier. Phew! After about 10 minutes, Ning Yu let out a long breath, and a joyful expression appeared on his face. Fortunately, the soul power of the martial artist who set up this barrier is only at middle stage rank 8. Otherwise, it would be impossible for me to find a breakthrough in such a short time. In his previous life, Ning Yu's soul power had reached peak rank 9. Naturally, he could find the flaw in the soul power barrier in front of him. Since he had found the flaw, Ning Yu did not stay for too long. Instead, he separated a bit of his soul power and found a breakthrough point in the barrier. In a flash, he went in. F***ck. As soon as he passed through the barrier, Ning Yu's eyes widened and his face revealed an extremely incredulous expression. Because the other side of the barrier was a little different from what he had imagined. There were no magic treasures, no elixirs, and even the vitality was extremely thin. Chapter 527. Ning Yu's mouth was slightly agape as he stared at the sword graves in front of him. After a while, Ning Yu came back to his senses and murmured, "To be protected by such a heaven-defying soul force barrier, these flying swords must be extraordinary." As he spoke, Ning Yu released his perception, wanting to detect the rank of the flying swords. "Are you sure you're not F***king kidding me?" When Ning Yu found out the rank of the flying swords on the sword graves, he was dumbfounded. Actually, it was no wonder that Ning Yu was dumbfounded, because the highest rank of the flying swords on the sword graves was only a black-grade flying sword. There wasn't even a single earth-grade flying sword. There's a total of 998 flying swords here, 98 of which are black-grade flying swords and 900 of yellow-grade flying swords. No, there's another flying sword at the top. Suddenly, Ning Yu raised his eyebrows and his gaze stopped on the sword grave in the deepest part. There was a silver-white flying sword on the sword grave. The reason why this flying sword could attract Ning Yu's attention was entirely because the flying sword was very special. There was not a trace of vitality fluctuation on it. In fact, Ning Yu couldn't even determine its rank. The strength of Ning Yu's soul force had reached the peak of 5th grade, and even he couldn't determine the rank of the flying sword. It was very likely that it was a king-grade flying sword like the Red Demon Sword. At the thought of this, Ning Yu revealed a look of excitement. If he could obtain another king-grade flying sword at this time, it would be a great improvement to his strength. Having more skills was not a burden, and having more swords was not a hindrance. Ning Yu simply released his perception and slowly approached the silver-white flying sword while paying attention to the changes in the sword graves around him. There were 998 sword graves and 998 flying swords. Although the rank of these flying swords was not considered high, Ning Yu didn't dare to be careless in the slightest. The flying swords were not scary, but the sword formations were. If these flying swords were really part of the sword array and they suddenly attacked, Ning Yu would have a hard time dealing with them. Voila! However, just as Ning Yu walked to the center of the sword tomb, the flying swords around him suddenly flew up. Not good. The moment the flying sword flew up, Ning Yu realized the seriousness of the problem. Sword array. From the arrangement of the flying swords, it was clearly a complete sword formation. Most importantly, the silver-white flying sword at the top of the sword tomb had also moved. Shio. When he didn't move, it was fine, but when he did, it was shocking. The silver-white flying sword, which originally did not have any yuan qi fluctuations, suddenly shot out a waist-thick yuan qi light beam from the sword tomb, which was completely swallowed by the silver-white flying sword. After devouring so much essence qi, the silver-white flying sword's grade began to soar. lower yellow class, mystic low rank, earth rank lower rank, heaven rank top grade. In just a few seconds, the silver-white flying sword, which had no grade, became a heaven rank top grade. It even had a faint impulse to break through to monarch rank. Led by the silver-white flying sword, the flying swords around him all attacked Ningyu. Damn it! Looking at the many flying swords in front of him, Ningyu cursed. He immediately took out the red demon's sword and slashed out several sword rays. Ding! 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 The sword rays made contact with the flying swords, producing a crisp sound. But what surprised Ningyu was that although the sword rays he slashed out were powerful, they did not shatter the flying swords, not even a yellow rank flying sword. Is this the power of a sword array? Ningyu quickly reacted and changed his strategy, attacking the silver-white flying sword instead. By now, Ningyu could basically conclude that the sword array in front of him was extremely powerful. As long as one of the flying swords was attacked, the other flying swords would transfer their essence chi to that flying sword. In other words, Ningyu was not fighting with one flying sword, but more than 900 flying swords. Unless it was powerful enough to shatter all 900 flying swords in one move, continuing the battle would be futile. Of course, there was another way to break the sword array, and that was to defeat the sword array's eye, which was the silver-white flying sword. Ningyu, focus on dealing with that heaven-rank top-grade flying sword. Leave the other 900 flying swords to me. At that moment, the red demon separated from the red demon's sword and charged into the sword array with the good sword in his hand. Ningyu was not an indecisive person. He only froze for 0.01 seconds before he came back to his senses. The next moment, Ningyu injected all the essence chi in his consciousness that he had just recovered into the red demon's sword and slashed at the silver-white flying sword with a backhand swing. The red demon's participation in the battle immediately eliminated Ningyu's worries, allowing him to focus fully on fighting the silver-white flying sword. Ding! A crisp sound rang out as the red demon's sword and the silver-white flying sword separated upon contact. I see. I was overthinking. After one move, Ningyu felt slightly relieved. The silver-white flying sword was a heaven-rank top-grade flying sword. Initially, Ningyu thought that it had developed a sword spirit, but from the looks of it, that was not the case. Since there was no sword spirit and the sword array was isolated by the red demon, the silver-white flying sword was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, facing the danger of being defeated by Ningyu at any time. Soul power, come out! The primordial chi in Ningyu's sea of consciousness was almost depleted. Therefore, he released his soul power at the peak of the 5th grade and wrapped it around the red demon sword. Once again, he slashed at the silvery-white flying sword. Crack! The red demon's sword immediately displayed its might after being wrapped by the soul power. In the subsequent confrontation with the silver-white flying sword, it steadily gained the upper hand. After a few moves, the silver-white flying sword let out a cracking sound and some cracks appeared. Buzz buzz. When Ningyu wanted to attack the silver-white flying sword again, a crack suddenly appeared in the space above the sword tomb. Then, many flying swords burrowed into the crack. As for the silver-white flying sword, it also gave up fighting the red demon sword and burrowed into the crack. The sudden change caused Ningyu to be slightly dumbfounded. What's going on? Ningyu stared at the crack in midair, his face filled with disbelief. Swoosh! At that moment, a figure suddenly flew out from the crack above the sword tomb and landed steadily in front of Ningyu. Not bad at all. You actually managed to activate the 9 return to 1 sword array that I left behind. The figure was in his 40s or 50s and had a dignified look on his face. He stared at Ningyu and sized him up, then smiled and said, "If you become my disciple, I can impart the cultivation method of the 9 return to 1 sword array to you." Ningyu was slightly stunned when he heard the middle-aged man's words. Become his disciple? Ningyu did not want to do that. Moreover, Ningyu could tell that the middle-aged man in front of him was only a soul projection. Ningyu was very resistant to becoming the disciple of a soul projection. In short, if you can't make me become your disciple, then I'll become your disciple. How embarrassing would that be? Chapter 528. Practice sword formation. What? You don't want to be my disciple? Seeing that Ningyu did not immediately acknowledge him as his master and instead had some misgivings, the middle-aged man revealed a displeased expression. How long has it been, and the cultivators of Snow Domain Pavilion have become so arrogant? You should leave. We don't welcome you here. By the way, tell the current pavilion master of the Snow Pavilion that no one is allowed to enter the Evil Cloud Pavilion in the future. I will seal this place. As soon as the middle-aged man finished speaking, Ningyu's expression changed. Tell the current pavilion master of Snow Domain Pavilion? Are you kidding me? I went through so much trouble to enter the Snow Domain Pavilion just to save Lu Wei's parents, the current pavilion master and pavilion master's wife. Now, the middle-aged man had mistaken me for someone from the Snow Domain Pavilion. You have a problem with that? Seeing that Ningyu did not leave, the middle-aged man said in a deep voice, even if you have a problem, you better hold it in. I will let you off this time because you are a disciple of the Snow Domain Pavilion. If you know what's good for you, get the hell out of here. Otherwise, you will regret it. After a long time, Ningyu finally understood. It turned out that the middle-aged man had mistaken him for someone from the Snow Domain Pavilion. No wonder he wanted me to be his disciple. Senior, are you from the Snow Domain Pavilion too? Ningyu asked after hesitating for a while. Huh? Are you not from the Snow Domain Pavilion? The middle-aged man frowned. Senior, I have nothing to do with the Snow Domain Pavilion. I just know the daughter of the current pavilion master. Ningyu answered honestly. Although the middle-aged man was just a soul shadow, he gave Ningyu a lot of pressure. It could be said that with Ningyu's current weakened state, he was definitely not a match for the middle-aged man. The daughter of the current pavilion master. Is her name Lu Wei? The middle-aged man furrowed his brows. Immediately after, a burst of energy erupted from his body, pressing down on Ningyu. What's your relationship with her? Tell me the truth. If you dare to lie, I'll make sure you never see the moon tonight. Senior, Lu Wei and I are good friends. Suppressed by the middle-aged man's aura, Ningyu hurriedly said, I'm here to save Lu Wei's parents. Save Lu Wei's parents? The middle-aged man was puzzled. That's right. It's mainly to save Lu Wei's parents. Ningyu nodded and told the middle-aged man about Lu Wei. After listening to Ningyu's story, the middle-aged man did not speak for a long time. Ningyu could even see a trace of anger on the middle-aged man's face. This trace of anger gradually deepened, and in the end, it became exceptionally frightening. I can't believe that after more than 10 years, Snow Domain Pavilion has become so dilapidated. After the anger subsided, the middle-aged man took a deep breath and thought to himself, I don't know if my decision to leave Little Row in Snow Domain Pavilion was right or wrong. Fortunately, I met this little brother today. Otherwise, I would feel guilty for the rest of my life. The middle-aged man's soul power was very strong. Naturally, he could tell that Ningyu was not lying. However, from what Ningyu said, it seemed that the person who trapped the current pavilion master of Snow Domain Pavilion was a martial artist at the peak of Yinyang realm. This matter was a little tricky. This soul shadow of mine cannot leave the Evil Cloud Pavilion, and it can only exist for half an hour. The middle-aged man thought for a while and said, I'll give you a chance, but you have to swear to protect Lu Wei for the rest of your life. You can't let her suffer any harm. Senior, Snow Domain Pavilion is in danger now. Isn't the risk I took to come here enough to prove something? Ningyu said solemnly, I swear that I won't let Lu Wei suffer any harm. Okay. The middle-aged man nodded and waved his hand. Suddenly, a jade bracelet flew toward Ningyu. The 999 flying swords are all in this jade bracelet. The middle-aged man explained, Moreover, there are some necessary cultivation resources in this jade bracelet. I hope you can give it to Lu Wei. Pa. Ningyu caught the jade bracelet steadily and sent a bit of his soul power into it. After a while, Ningyu retracted his soul power. His eyes were filled with shock. There were too many magical treasures and elixirs in the jade bracelet. So many that it was terrifying. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu asked, "Senior, are you so sure that I will give it to Lu Wei and not take it for myself?" "I believe you." The middle-aged man stared into Ningyu's eyes and said solemnly. "Believe my ass." Ningyu cursed in his heart. Ningyu knew very well that the middle-aged man did not believe him. Instead, he believed in his own judgment. Just now, Ningyu noticed that the middle-aged man's soul power was lingering in his mind. In other words, if he had the slightest thought of taking the jade bracelet for himself, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Ningyu naturally wouldn't speak of these things to others. It would be fine if he only knew about these things. "Senior, old he is at the pinnacle of the yin-yang realm. With my..." Ningyu hesitated. "The 9 return to 1 sword array is extremely powerful. If you can cultivate it to the stage of initial success, you can still trap a pinnacle of the yin-yang realm martial artist for a few minutes." The middle-aged man interrupted Ningyu and said, "I will only explain the cultivation method of the 9 return to 1 sword array once." After that, the middle-aged man quickly explained the cultivation method of the 9 return to 1 sword array. After that, the middle-aged man waved his hands. Ningyu noticed that the more than 900 flying swords in the jade bracelet flew out in unison and floated beside the middle-aged man. "I will demonstrate the sword array for you. How much you can grasp and digest depends on your own ability." The middle-aged man's powerful soul power was separated and deposited on each flying sword before he began to demonstrate the sword array. 3 minutes later, the middle-aged man stopped and said to Ningyu, "Familiarize yourself with the sword array cultivation method first. Then, try to control the flying swords." Ningyu knew that the middle-aged man wanted to help him. He quickly recalled the sword array cultivation method in detail, fearing that he would miss out on any mistake. 3 minutes later, Ningyu suddenly opened his eyes and rose from the ground, trying to grab the silver flying sword. "Wait!" However, before Ningyu could move, the middle-aged man waved his hand and said, "The silver serpent sword is only a supreme-grade heaven-grade flying sword. It's far inferior to your red flying sword. Just use the red flying sword. If I'm not wrong, your red flying sword is at least king-grade. Using a king-grade flying sword as the core of the 9 return to 1 sword array can increase the power of the sword array by a level." Upon hearing that, Ningyu was slightly stunned. He immediately took out the red fiend sword and began to cultivate the 9 return to 1 sword array. Using a flying sword with a sword spirit as the core of a sword array. Even I have not tried it before. I'm looking forward to it. In fact, when the middle-aged man appeared in the void, he noticed that the red flying sword in Ningyu's hand was unusual. To be precise, he noticed the scene of the red fiend tearing through the void and fusing with the red fiend sword. From the thick spiritual aura that the red fiend exuded, the middle-aged man determined that the red fiend was definitely a sword spirit. Whoosh! Chapter 529. Activate the portal. Cold-face, where's Ningyu? The alchemist hall master asked doubtfully as he stared at the tightly shut bronze door. That's not right. Ningyu told me to wait for him here. Ling Mian opened his mouth, his face full of confusion. Ningyu had indeed told him to find him here when they recovered to their peak state. Why was there not a single person in sight? Could it be, suddenly, Ling Mian's heart skipped a beat as he revealed an incredulous expression. Ningyu is on the other side of the stone door. What's there to be surprised about? Since Ningyu is on the other side of the stone door, we'll wait for him here. In the face of Ling Mian's shock, the alchemist hall master felt a little speechless. Inexplicable, completely inexplicable. Humph! What do you know? Ling Mian coldly snorted. He then took a step forward and placed his hands on the bronze door. Creak! As Ling Mian exerted force, the heavy bronze stone door was slowly pushed open. Soul barrier! The moment the bronze door was pushed open, the alchemist hall master discovered the soul formation within. Since he had discovered the barrier, the alchemist temple master naturally had to investigate it. After all, the strength of his soul force had reached the 8th grade realm. However, as soon as the alchemist hall master's soul energy came into contact with the barrier, his expression changed drastically as he sucked in a mouthful of cold air. If he hadn't retreated in time, that wisp of soul force he had split out would have been completely devoured by the barrier. I thought you were powerful, but it turns out you can't even break a soul barrier. Seeing the alchemist hall master suffering a setback, Ling Mian could not help but mock. I can't break the barrier, but do you think you can? The alchemist hall master was extrememly angry and said angrily, if it wasn't for Ningyu, I would have beaten you up so badly that even your parents wouldn't recognize you. Hee, with just you? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror? You want to defeat me? Dream on. Ling Mian smiled. If you're not convinced, you can give it a try. The alchemist hall master released his aura and said coldly, let's give it a try. Who's afraid of who? Ling Mian also displayed the aura of a late-stage yin-yang realm, not showing any weakness. Why don't I try it with you? However, just as Ling Mian and the alchemist hall leader were about to fight, an indifferent voice slowly rang out in the area. Chi. The instant he said those words, everyone saw the soul power barrier before them suddenly become unstable. Rumble! The next moment, accompanied by a rumbling sound, the soul force boundary suddenly exploded. Xiao! The spiritual energy boundary had just exploded when a skinny figure swiftly rushed out from within and steadily landed in front of the Alchemy Master Hall Chief's group. Ningyu! Seeing the familiar figure in front of them, the hearts of the Alchemist Hall Master, Ling Mian, and the others thumped. They immediately withdrew their auras, and did not even dare to breathe loudly. I heard that the two of you want to spar. Ningyu's eyes slowly swept across the surroundings and finally landed on the Alchemist Hall Master and Ling Mian. How about a spar with me? We wouldn't dare. The Alchemist Hall Master and Ling Mian replied almost at the same time. Spar with Ningyu? What a joke. Both of them were now under Ningyu's control. Ningyu only needed to slightly use his soul power during the spar and they would be defeated. There was no comparison between the two sides. Ling Mian, I know that you don't like me. Today, I'll let you see my true strength. Ningyu's eyes turned cold. He immediately rose from the ground and quickly rushed towards Ling Mian. 9-in-1 sword formation. In fact, before Ningyu came out, he had already thought about using Ling Mian to test the power of the sword formation. After half an hour of learning, Ningyu could already control 99 flying sword. With the power of the sword formation, Ningyu was confident that he could fight with Ling Mian. Oh no. Originally, when Ningyu attacked, Ling Mian's idea was to let Ningyu take advantage of him. Now, it seemed that if he did not use his full strength, he might not be able to block the 99 flying swords in front of him. Ding ding ding! The fight between Ningyu and Ling Mian ended quickly. In the end, Ling Mian and Ningyu fought to a draw. Neither of them could do anything to the other. Even so, the strength that Ningyu had displayed had left the Alchemist Hall Master and the others dumbfounded. Since when did Ningyu's strength become so strong? Ling Mian was a late-stage yin-yang realm martial artist. How could Ningyu fight him to a draw? Was this world too crazy or were they too stupid? Not bad. With the Red Fiend's sword as the eye of the formation and 98 mystic flying swords, he can actually fight Ling Mian to a draw. Ningyu kept the flying swords in the air and nodded slightly, expressing his satisfaction. The 9-in-1 sword formation had a total of 999 flying sword. He only used 99 flying swords to fight Ling Mian to a draw. When we leave Snowfield Pavilion, we have to change all the Mystic Flying Swords to Earth-grade Flying Swords or even Heaven-grade Flying Swords. 99 Mystic Flying Swords exploded with such powerful power. One could imagine that if they were all replaced with Earth-grade or Heaven-grade Flying Swords, the power would increase to an extremely terrifying level. Although the 9-in-1 sword formation was very powerful, it was more difficult to cultivate. One had to be very familiar with the control of soul power to be able to cultivate it to the level of mastery. If Ningyu did not have the strength of a peak 9th-grade soul power in his previous life, it would basically be impossible for him to cultivate the 9-in-1 sword formation to this level in half an hour. You guys go into the storage ring first. Ling Mian, come with me to the Evil Cloud Pavilion's teleportation array. Ningyu gave the order without hesitation. Everyone hurriedly transformed into a series of afterimages before entering the storage ring. In the blink of an eye, only Ningyu and Ling Mian were left in the area. Even Poison Scorpion's corpse was thrown into the storage ring. Let's go. Bring me to the teleportation array. I want to meet the so-called Elder Crane, said Ningyu calmly to Ling Mian. Let's go. Ling Mian dared not delay. He immediately rose from the ground and flew toward the teleportation array. Swoosh. Soon, Ningyu and Ling Mian stopped in a wide area. Are you sure there's a teleportation array here? Ningyu frowned slightly. It did not look like there was a teleportation array here. Activating the teleportation array requires 5 Supreme Essence crystals. Ling Mian raised his right foot and stomped down hard. Crack! In the next instant, a huge crack appeared on the ground. Then, a circular altar slowly emerged. Ningyu looked over and saw 5 grooves on the altar. It was obvious that the grooves were used to store Supreme Essence crystals. This teleportation array seems very simple. In his previous life, Ningyu had seen many teleportation arrays. He had seen many extremely simple teleportation arrays like this one. The principle of this teleportation array was very simple. It relied on the essence chi in Supreme Essence crystals to forcefully tear open the void and teleport to another place within a short distance. Swish, swish, swish. Ningyu shook his wrist. 5 Supreme Essence crystals flew out and landed steadily in the grooves on the altar. As for Ningyu and Ling Mian, they took a step forward and stood on the altar. Rumble! As soon as Ningyu and Ling Mian stood on the altar, a huge pillar of light erupted from the altar and instantly enveloped Ningyu and the others. Ling Mian, where will this teleportation array send us? The room where Elder Crane is, of course. Chapter 530. Testing each other, the Great Xia Kingdom is in troubled times. If we can get our hands on a treasure like the one in Snow Pavilion, the imperial family's strength will be enhanced. In the deepest part of Snow Pavilion's forbidden ground, in a secret chamber with the densest essence chi, an old man was pacing back and forth with a solemn look on his face. The old man was none other than the Yin-Yang realm martial artist that Ningyu was looking for, Old Crane. That old donkey is very stubborn. Forcing him won't work. I can only look for a breakthrough from his daughter. Old Crane frowned slightly and murmured, I wonder if Ling Mian and the others have found out the cause of Black Whirlwind's death. There might be a fierce battle in Snow Pavilion tomorrow night. If worse comes to worst, I'll call them back. Lu Wei was in the Sacred Institute of Danwu College. Ning Yu's identity as a core disciple of the Sacred Institute might be enough to invite the Dean of the Sacred Institute. The Dean of the Sacred Institute was not scary. His highest cultivation was only at early-stage Yin-Yang realm. What was scary was the group of old monsters in the Forbidden Ground. If those old monsters had nothing better to do and came out to help Lu Wei, the situation would become complicated. Most importantly, he had just received a message from the Imperial Palace. An old monster in Danwu College, who was related to the dean of the Sacred Institute, had come out of seclusion. Forget it. We can investigate Black Whirlwind's death later. The most important thing now is to send Lu Wei to the Imperial Palace before tomorrow night. Old Crane reached into his robe and took out a telepathic crystal ball to communicate with Scorpion. Buzz. However, as soon as Old Crane took out the crystal ball, his expression changed drastically, and he could not help but retreat. When Old Crane retreated, the space in front of him was suddenly torn open, and two martial artists appeared in front of him. Ling Mian. The sudden change left Old He a little dumbfounded. Logically speaking, he should have noticed the crack in the space immediately with his perception. Since he did not notice it immediately, it meant that the crack in the space was unusual. It should be from the simple teleportation array in Evil Cloud Pavilion. Where's Scorpion? After confirming that the crack was caused by the teleportation array, Old Crane's face turned gloomy. Didn't I tell him not to activate the teleportation array unless it's something important? Was his ear bitten off by a dog? And you seem to be. Ningyu. Elder He turned to look at Ningyu. As soon as he laid eyes on Ningyu, Old Crane's eyes were filled with shock. Ningyu. Although Old Crane had never seen Ningyu's true appearance, he had seen his portrait and heard of Ningyu's cultivation base. Wasn't Ningyu in the true martial realm? Why had his cultivation reached the mid-primal core stage? Moreover, he seemed to be more familiar with Ling Mian. I don't think I found anything. Ningyu's mind raced when he heard Old Crane's words. He didn't follow his original plan to attack Old Crane. Since Old Crane hadn't found anything amiss, why not feign civility with him first and then look for a way out? At this thought, Ningyu concealed the 7 golden essences in his consciousness and said calmly, Old Crane, I am indeed Ningyu. I'm here to discuss something with you. What do you want to discuss with me? Old Crane raised an eyebrow and stared at Ningyu with interest. If it's about Lu Wei, I think you should keep your mouth shut. Lu Wei must come to Shuiyu Pavilion by tomorrow night. Otherwise, her parents will be executed by 1,000 cut. Humph. You want to execute Lu Wei's parents by 1,000 cuts? It won't be that easy. Ningyu snorted under his breath, but his expression remained impassive. Old Crane, I'm not pleading on Lu Wei's behalf. I was asked by Lu Wei to see her parents and make sure they're still alive. Old Crane didn't answer Ningyu immediately. Instead, he turned his questioning gaze to Ling Mian. Old Crane, this is most likely true. Ling Mian was under Ningyu's control, so he had no choice but to answer according to Ningyu's wishes. When I went to investigate Black Whirlwind's death, I met Ningyu outside the capital. Ningyu was with Wan Jingtian at the time. Wan Jingtian? What does this have to do with Wan Jingtian? Old Crane muttered to himself. According to Ningyu, he had entered the snow pavilion to confirm if Lu Wei's parents were still alive. How did this involve Black Whirlwind's death and Wan Jingtian? Could it be that Black Whirlwind had died at the hands of Ningyu? As soon as this thought popped up, Old Crane killed it off. That was impossible. Ningyu was only at the mid-primal core stage, while Black Whirlwind was at the advanced Yin-Yang stage. There was a world of difference in their strength. Even 8 Ningyus would not be a match for Black Whirlwind. Black Whirlwind was killed by Wan Jingtian. Ling Mian threw out a bombshell. Moreover, Sir Scorpion has already gone after Wan Jingtian. What? Ling Mian's bombshell was so heavy that Old Crane unleashed all his aura to suppress Ling Mian. Tell me clearly, what exactly is going on? Although Old Crane's aura was directed at Ling Mian, Ningyu was more or less affected by it. At the same time, Ningyu was glad that he did not attack Old Crane right away. Old Crane's strength far exceeded Scorpion's. Even 3 Scorpion were not a match for Old Crane. This was because Old Crane's strength had vaguely touched the threshold of the manifestation state. He was only 1 step away from the half-step manifestation state. Being suppressed by Old Crane's aura, Ling Mian did not dare to be careless. He hurriedly used the words that he had used to deceive Scorpion. After listening to Ling Mian's story, Old Crane did not say a word. After a while, Old Crane stared at Ning Yu and said coldly, "Wan Jingtian is not that stupid. He would never betray the royal family. Don't think that I won't dare to kill you just because you are a core disciple of the Sacred Institute of Danwu College." Being able to cultivate to the peak of the yin-yang stage, Old Crane naturally had his own strength. He would not listen to Ling Mian's one-sided words. Moreover, at the moment when the spatial rift appeared just now, he faintly noticed something unusual about Ling Yen. "Old Crane, there's nothing I can do if you don't believe me." Ning Yu had no intention of backing down. While resisting Old Crane's aura, he said in a deep voice, "I'm here to see Lu Wei's parents. If I don't leave Snow Domain Pavilion alive, you won't be able to see Lu Wei tomorrow night." Ning Yu was not a fool. Since Old Crane had threatened Lu Wei with her parents, they must be determined to get their hands on Lu Wei. At this point, Ning Yu did not believe that Old Crane would kill him. "All right, I'll bring you to see Lu Wei's parents." As expected, Old Crane instantly withdrew his aura and said, "I'd like to see what you have to say when you see them. Ling Mian, take Ning Yu to see Lu Wei's parents first. I have something to do," Old Crane said to Ling Mian. Immediately, Old Crane rose from the ground, tore the void, and entered. "What the hell is he playing at?" Old Crane's sudden departure left Ning Yu a little confused. However, without Old Crane around, Ning Yu could put Lu Wei's parents into his storage ring and find a way to leave Snow Domain Pavilion. Chapter 531. Unable to withstand a single blow. Ling Mian, are there any formations set up at the place where Lu Wei's parents are? Although he was very anxious, Ning Yu did not immediately go to see Lu Wei's parents. Instead, he asked, "Apart from Elder He, are there any other cultivators here?" It was better to be safe than sorry. Moreover, Ning Yu still felt that there was something wrong with Elder He. "There's no formation." Ling Mian shook his head. "This is the deepest part of Snow Domain Pavilion's forbidden area. Apart from Elder He, there's no one else here." "That's good. There's no time to lose. Let's depart now." Since there was no one else here, Ning Yu's apprehension was slightly alleviated. In the next moment, Ling Mian rose from the ground and quickly left the secret chamber. As for Ning Yu, he carefully followed behind Ling Mian and extended his perception to ensure that he did not encounter anything similar to a restriction. Creak. Elder He's secret chamber was very close to the secret chamber where Lu Wei's parents were. It only took a minute for Ning Yu to reach the secret chamber's door. Ling Mian took a step forward and slowly pushed the secret chamber's door open. "I've said it before, unless you take out the rebirth pill, and who are you?" As soon as Ning Yu stepped into the secret chamber, the middle-aged man beside the stone bed spoke impatiently. However, the middle-aged man's voice stopped abruptly when he saw the unfamiliar figure in front of him. "Senior, Lu Wei asked me to come here. The situation is critical, so please enter the storage ring quickly." Ning Yu did not want to waste any time. The moment he stepped into the stone chamber, he threw the storage ring in his hand over his head. At the same time, a beam of light shot out from the storage ring. "Mian, speak clearly." The middle-aged man naturally would not choose to believe Ning Yu. Instead, he shouted in a deep voice, "I don't have time to explain so much to you. In short, you did the right thing by entering the storage ring." Ning Yu did not want to miss such a good opportunity. He immediately signaled Ling Mian with his eyes. Ling Mian understood and immediately flew to the side of the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man, who was also Lu Wei's father, had his cultivation sealed by Old Crane. He was now a man without the strength to truss a chicken. Under the pressure of Ling Mian's powerful aura, he was instantly defeated. Ling Mian grabbed Lu Wei's father and was about to throw him into his storage ring. "Cold face, throw the stone bed into the storage ring as well." Ning Yu's words rang in Ling Mian's ears. Ling Mian was stunned for a second. Then, he released his vital energy and wrapped the stone bed before throwing it into his storage ring. Seeing that Lu Wei's parents had entered the storage ring, Ningyu hurriedly put the storage ring back on his finger and let out a long sigh of relief. Go. Ningyu was not an indecisive person. Since he had already placed Lu Wei's parents in his storage ring, there was no need for him to stay any longer. He had to leave Snow Domain Pavilion before Elder He did. Otherwise, the situation would become very dangerous when Elder He arrived. Whoosh! Before Ningyu could move, a crack appeared in the space in front of him. Then, an old man appeared from the crack. The moment the old man appeared, Ningyu's pupils shrank and he could not help but retreat. However, the old man's speed was obviously half a beat faster than Ningyu. As soon as Ningyu retreated, the old man punched Ningyu's chest with violent vital energy. At the critical moment, Ningyu hurriedly injected the vital energy in his sea of consciousness into his fist. With a backhand punch, it collided with the old man. Bam! Ningyu only felt a tearing pain in his fist. At the same time, his body was blasted several feet away. Humph! How dare you play tricks in front of me? I think you're tired of living. Elder He snorted. Do you think I don't know that Ling Mian is lying? To tell you the truth, I left just now because I wanted to see if there were any powerhouses from Danwu College. Unfortunately, I did not see any powerhouses from Danwu College. Although I admire your courage, I am very responsible to tell you that this day next year will be the anniversary of your death. Then, Elder He turned around and said to Ling Mian, as a member of the imperial family, how dare you side with Ningyu? I will now give you a chance to turn over a new leaf. Kill Ningyu, and I will let bygones be bygones. Did you notice? Now, Ningyu had become unusually calm. So calm that it was a little scary. Lu Wei's parents were in the storage ring, so he had nothing to worry about. Most importantly, in front of Elder He, who was at the peak of Yin-Yang realm, it would be harder than ascending to heaven if he wanted to escape. Since he could not escape, he would fight. Come out, all of you. Ningyu took a deep breath and shouted in a low voice. Swoosh! As soon as Ningyu's voice fell, several figures rushed out of the storage ring and landed in front of Ningyu. You've overestimated yourself. This time, Elder He did not waste any more time talking to Ningyu. He tore the void and appeared next to Ma Wei. He threw a punch and it landed squarely on Ma Wei's heart. Ma Wei was only at the early stage of Yin-Yang realm. Facing Elder He, who was at the peak of Yin-Yang realm, there was almost no way for him to fight back. Gasp! Ma Wei's death made the rest of the people's faces turn ugly. The strength that Elder He displayed was too powerful. It was so powerful that it was hard for them to even think of fighting back. Damn it! What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for Elder He to take us down one by one? Seeing the Hall Master of Alchemy and the others in a daze, Ningyu shouted, Elder He is very powerful. Don't blame me if you're killed if you hold back. Attack! Hearing Ningyu's words, the Hall Master of Alchemy's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly wrapped his soul power and primordial chi around his wrist and threw a punch at Elder He. Evil Eye. Beside him, the Evil Eye did not hold back at all. It immediately forced a drop of blood essence into its eye. Immediately, two beams of evil light shot out from Evil Eye's eyes and rushed toward Elder He. Cold Sun Punch. Ling Mian threw a punch and attacked Elder He from the side with Evil Eye and the Hall Master of Alchemy. Child's Play. Facing three powerful attacks coming at him, Elder He did not look nervous at all. Instead, he smirked and said, Today, I'll show you what a true peak Yin-Yang realm martial artist looks like. As soon as the word swordsman fell, a monstrous aura erupted from Elder He's body. As soon as the aura erupted, it split into three parts. One went for the Hall Master of Alchemy, one went for Evil Eye, and the last went for Ling Mian. 3 consecutive sounds of blood being spat were heard. Without a doubt, the Hall Master of Alchemy and the other two were defeated by Elder He. They did not even manage to withstand a single move. The defeat of the Hall Master of Alchemy and the others made Ning Yu's heart sink to the bottom. Even someone as powerful as the Hall Master of Alchemy could not withstand a single move from Elder He. Today, he was doomed. Ning Yu, it's your turn now. Chapter 532. The might of the sword array. You want to kill me? It won't be that easy. Ning Yu was not one to sit and wait for death. Come out. As soon as Ning Yu's voice fell, 98 flying swords flew out of the storage ring and landed in front of him. Swoosh! With a flick of his wrist, the red demon sword appeared in Ning Yu's hand. Hee hee, you want to fight me with just 90 mystic-grade flying swords? I have to say you're really naive. The corners of Old He's mouth curled up when he saw the numerous flying swords hovering around Ning Yu. Even a heaven-grade flying sword won't be of much use in front of a peak yin-yang realm martial artist, let alone dozens of mystic flying sword. Formation. Ning Yu glanced at Elder He and growled. He split his peak 5th-grade soul power into 98 strands and sent them into the 98 mystic-grade flying sword. Whoosh! Suddenly, the 98 mystic-grade flying swords seemed to be injected with energy as they began to arrange themselves in the air in an orderly manner. It's a sword array. No wonder you're so confident. At that moment, Elder He's brows furrowed slightly. The sword array formed by 98 mystic-grade flying swords, coupled with the control of Ning Yu's peak 5th-grade soul power, was indeed powerful. Even a late-stage yin-yang realm martial artist might not be able to gain an advantage in the sword array. However, Elder He did not take the sword array to heart. After all, he was a peak yin-yang realm martial artist. A sword array formed by 98 mystic-grade flying swords was not much of a threat to him. Red Demon Sword. Elder He did not make a move immediately. Instead, he gave Ning Yu enough time. Ning Yu tossed the red demon sword into the center of the sword formation, using it as the eye of the formation to support the sword formation. Hiss! The moment Ning Yu took out the red demon sword, Elder He's expression changed drastically. With his peak yin-yang realm perception, he could naturally sense that the red demon sword was unusual. King-grade flying sword. However, as knowledgeable as Elder He was, he only noticed that the red demon sword had reached the king rank. He didn't know that the red demon sword was at the peak of the king rank. Otherwise, he would have made his move long ago. He definitely wouldn't have waited until now. Peak king rank flying swords were priceless and extremely rare. Go! While Old Crane was still in a daze, Ning Yu raised his brows and hurriedly controlled the sword formation to attack Old Crane. Xiao! 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 The 98 mystic-grade flying swords charged at the front, while the red demon sword guarded the rear as the eye of the formation. Humph! Today, I will take away your sword formation. Elder He grunted coldly as he gazed at the sword formation that was approaching him ceaselessly. After that, a torrential wave of origin energy split into 98 strands with the intention of capturing all the profound rank flying swords in one go. As for Old Crane himself, he turned into an afterimage and rushed straight for the red demon sword. No matter what, the red demon sword was still a king-rank flying sword. It was very attractive to Elder Crane. I didn't expect to obtain a king-rank flying sword. What a pleasant surprise! Elder Crane was overjoyed inwardly. A king-rank flying sword was too important to him. If he had a king-rank flying sword, it would be of great help to him when he broke through to the manifestation realm in the future. After all, yin-yang realm martial artists needed to undergo a tribulation to break through to the manifestation realm. What? However, a fantasy was ultimately a fantasy. Dreams were plentiful, but reality was harsh. Elder Crane's expression changed drastically before he even reached the red demon sword. That was because he discovered that not only did his 98 strands of origin energy not gain the upper hand against the profound rank flying swords, but they were also devoured by the flying swords. Pfft. 98 strands of origin energy were equivalent to 20% of the total origin energy in Elder Crane's body. Losing so much origin energy in one go enraged Elder Crane, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. Now's the time. Just as Elder Crane spat out blood and his breathing became unstable, Ningyu's eyes turned cold and he growled, "Red Demon, if you don't come out now, when are you going to?" Swoosh. As soon as Ningyu's voice fell, a red figure suddenly rushed out of the Red Demon's sword. The red figure was so fast that it appeared beside Elder Crane in the blink of an eye. Most importantly, the red figure was holding a small flying sword in its hand. The aura it contained was no weaker than the Red Demon's sword. Elder Crane was indeed a peak yin-yang realm martial artist. He reacted quickly and summoned 20% of his origin energy to form a Yuan Qi shield in front of his chest. However, Elder Crane had obviously underestimated the power of the small flying sword. His Yuan Qi shield was instantly shattered by the small flying sword. Moreover, the small flying sword's power did not diminish as it charged at him again. Damn it! Elder Crane was extremely furious after losing origin energy one after another. He had lost 20% of his origin energy when he was fighting against the sword array. Now, he had underestimated the power of the small flying sword and lost another 20% of his origin energy. Now, Elder Crane only had 60% of his origin energy left. His strength had also decreased by a lot. Crack. After cursing inwardly, Old Crane punched out. Cracks appeared in the space in front of him, and a cracking sound rang out. "Red Demon, come back!" There was no way Ningyu would give Elder Crane a chance to succeed. Seeing Elder Crane attack like an enraged bull, Ningyu summoned Red Demon back. Upon hearing Ningyu's words, Red Demon did not dare to delay. He immediately turned around and retreated with all his might. "You want to leave? Not so easy." Elder Crane was already furious. He would not allow Red Demon to escape just like that. The next moment, Elder Crane tore the void in front of him and appeared in front of Red Demon. He threw a punch, bringing with it a gust of origin energy that smashed at Red Demon's head. Swoosh. However, Elder Crane did not know that Red Demon was the sword spirit of the Red Demon sword. The Red Demon sword was a monarch flying sword at its peak, and it was now a king flying sword at its peak. Red Demon could tear the void in a short time as well. What? You can tear the void too? Elder Crane did not expect Red Demon to tear the void to escape. He did not expect that the red-robed man in front of him could tear the void even though his aura was not strong. This is infuriating. Red Demon tore the void and appeared in the center of the sword formation. Naturally, Elder Crane missed. Elder Crane clenched his fists, shaking with anger. He thought that he could kill Ningyu easily. Who would have thought that he could not even touch Ningyu's clothes? Moreover, he was toyed with by Ningyu time and again, causing him to lose 40% of his origin energy. This was intolerable. Elder Crane was completely enraged. The consequences of a peak yin-yang realm martial artist's anger were obvious. "Ningyu, I've changed my mind. Not only will I kill you, but I'll also twist your head off and hang it on the city wall." Elder Crane's eyes were filled with viciousness. "If I'm not wrong, your family is in Tianqian City. That's just a small place. What are you trying to do?" Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. He said coldly, "Elder Crane, if you dare touch my family, I'll kill you even if I'm severely injured." Chapter 533. Exploding lightning beads. This won't do. 99 flying swords aren't enough to kill old he. It'll be hard for me to fight him. Ningyu's eyes darted around as he tried to come up with a countermeasure. Although he had exhausted 40% of old he's primordial chi, Ningyu knew very well that he was still no match for old he with his current strength. In fact, it was still unknown if he could even withstand 3 moves from old He. I can only rely on myself now. Ningyu turned his head to look at the hall master and the others who were recuperating at full speed. His face darkened. Ever since they were defeated by old He, the hall master and the others had been recuperating at full speed. Fortunately, old He did not attack the hall master and the others. Otherwise, Ningyu would not be able to withstand it with his current strength. According to the hall master and the others, he would need at least half an hour to recover to his peak state. In other words, Ningyu could only rely on himself for the next half an hour. Eat my fist. While Ningyu was slightly distracted, old He dashed out and appeared in front of Ningyu in the blink of an eye. Following that, old He threw a punch that landed squarely on Ningyu's chest. Bam! The immense force from his chest forced Ningyu to take a few steps back before he could stabilize himself. Fortunately, Ningyu summoned the primordial qi in his sea of consciousness at the critical moment and gathered it on his chest. Otherwise, old He's punch alone would have been enough to make him suffer. Your primordial qi is so dense. Old Crane frowned when he saw that his punch did not kill Ningyu. He was slightly surprised. Come out. Naturally, Ningyu ignored old He's surprise. With a thought, he summoned the 7 golden cores in his sea of consciousness. What? When old He saw the 7 golden cores above Ningyu's head, his mouth was slightly agape with a look of disbelief. 7 golden cores? What kind of monster is Ningyu? Old Crane was dumbfounded. After all, he was a martial artist at the peak of Yin-Yang realm. However, he had never seen anyone with 7 golden cores. He had never even seen a martial artist with 2 golden elixirs. Do you think you can compete with me with 7 golden cores? After a brief moment of bewilderment, old Crane said coldly, I'll show you what it means to be noisy. Before old Crane's voice faded away, Ningyu let out a low growl. The 7 golden cores above his head suddenly erupted with 7 yuan qi light pillars, all of which gathered on his wrist. Seeing Ningyu's actions, the Red Fiend understood and hurriedly fused with the Red Fiend's sword, instantly appearing in front of Ningyu. Ningyu took a step forward and held the Red Fiend's sword in his hand. The vital energy on his wrist was frantically injected into the Red Fiend's sword. Solitaire! In the next moment, as Ningyu let out a deep roar, a waist-thick sword wave appeared in the air. Whoosh! As soon as the sword wave appeared, it swept toward Old Crane. Oh no! Old Crane, who had reached the peak of Yin-Yang realm, could not help but feel a headache when he felt the majestic vital energy contained in the sword wave. He would not be afraid if his vital energy was still at its peak. However, he only had 60% of his vital energy now, so it was still difficult for him to resist the sword wave. Rumble! At the critical moment, Old Crane gritted his teeth and once again summoned 20% of his vital energy to wrap around his fist, colliding with the sword wave. The result of the collision was beyond Old Crane's expectations. The sword wave was directly defeated and did not even have the slightest impact on him. What's going on? Why does the sword wave look so powerful, but it's so easy to resist? Old Crane frowned slightly surprised that Lin Fan was able to resist the sword wave's attack so easily. I was tricked. Seeing Old Crane's puzzled expression, Ningyu was secretly delighted, but he did not show it on his face. Although the solitaire that he had just executed looked powerful on the surface, it was actually a paper tiger with an extremely empty interior. In other words, the solitaire was just an empty shell used to bluff. Whether or not I can defeat or even kill Old Crane depends on this move. Ningyu took a deep breath and dashed out with the Red Demon sword in hand, appearing in front of Old Crane in the blink of an eye. Then, Ningyu stabbed the sword straight at Old Crane's neck. You're courting death. The fact that Ningyu was able to withstand the solitary sword wave easily made Old Crane look down on him. Kingrade Flying Sword, give it to me. Old Crane ignored the Red Demon sword's power and reached out with his right hand to grab it. In Old Crane's mind, the red demon sword was already his. No one could take it away from him. Since you want the red demon sword so much, I'll give it to you. Ning Yu's reaction was a little unexpected. With a flick of his wrist, Ning Yu threw the red demon sword at Old Crane. Ning Yu's sudden action stunned Old Crane. However, Old Crane was only stunned for a moment. Soon, he came back to his senses and was ecstatic. However, Old Crane was still cautious. He channeled the rest of his primal chi into his wrist, wanting to collect the red demon sword in one go. Ha ha ha, the Kingrade flying sword is mine. Oh no. Old Crane could not help but laugh wildly when he saw that he was about to grab the red demon sword. However, before he could finish laughing, Old Crane's expression changed drastically. He saw a black bead suddenly fly out of the flying sword in front of him and arrive in front of him in the blink of an eye. Thunder Explosion Bead. The black bead that flew out of the red demon sword was the Thunder Explosion Bead. Old Crane, I prepared this Thunder Explosion Bead for you. Ning Yu had obtained a total of 2 Thunder Explosion Beads from Old Tan and Black Whirlwind. He had used one against Poison Scorpion, so he still had one left. Although the Thunder Explosion Bead Ning Yu had obtained was of the lowest grade, its power was equivalent to the self-destruction of an early-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist. Damn it! Damn it! Old Crane's eyes finally revealed a trace of panic. At such a close distance, coupled with the fact that he had less than 60% of his primal chi left, it would be very difficult for him to withstand the aftermath of the Thunder Explosion Bead's explosion. Ning Yu, the explosion of the Thunder Explosion Bead. F***CK. Old Crane originally wanted to say a few harsh words. After all, Ning Yu was very close to him, and he believed that Ning Yu would not be able to gain any advantage from such a close distance. However, when Old Crane saw that Ning Yu had already made use of the Red Demon Sword's ability to tear through the void to run to the other side and join forces with the Alchemist Hall Master and the others to activate the 9 return to 1 sword formation, forming a dense protective net around them, Old Crane was dumbfounded. Old Crane, I specially prepared this Thunder Explosion Bead for you. On the other side, Ning Yu's lips curled up into a smile. Enjoy the joy it brings you. Rumble. As soon as Ning Yu's laughter faded, the Thunder Explosion Bead suddenly exploded. Come out. All of you, come out. Old Crane bellowed when he saw the shock waves of the explosion rushing toward him. He hurriedly released all the remaining primal chi in his body and formed a huge primal chi protective shield around him. The power of the Thunder Explosion Bead's explosion was similar to the self-destruction of an early-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist. If it were any other time, Old Crane would definitely not be afraid. Chapter 534. Impossible to subdue Rumble. The explosion of the lightning explosion pearl resounded in the secret chamber. A huge shockwave spread unscrupulously in all directions. Fortunately, Ning Yu was prepared and used the sword array to block the shockwave. Otherwise, the situation would be very dangerous for him. When the first lightning explosion pearl exploded, Ning Yu and the others relied on their spatial rings to block the shockwave. Since Ning Yu didn't discuss it with the Hall Master and the others beforehand, he could only rely on the sword array to block the shockwave. Chi. Compared to Ning Yu and the others, Elder Crane was in a much more difficult situation. Although he was using all his strength to block the shockwave was too strong. The Yuan Chi protective barrier he set up was almost instantly destroyed. He had no choice but to force out a few drops of blood essence to form a protective barrier in front of him. Elder Crane, didn't you notice something unusual in the shockwave of the lightning explosion pearl's explosion? Ning Yu's voice rang in Elder Crane's ears while he was using all his strength to block the shockwave. Humph. Trying to distract me? Don't think I don't know what you're up to. Elder Crane snorted without hesitation. Once the shockwave of the explosion passes, you'll die. TSK. The ignorant are truly fearless. Ningyu shrugged and said indifferently, I'm warning you out of goodwill, but you don't appreciate it. Fine, don't blame me later. If you had a mid-grade lightning explosion pearl, I might have been injured by you. A low-grade lightning explosion pearl can't do anything to me. Not good. Elder Crane shouted coldly. However, before Elder Crane could finish his sentence, his expression changed drastically. Extreme fear appeared in his eyes. Swoosh! In the aftermath of the explosion, a blue flame suddenly sprang out and attacked Old He's face. A flame on the Mystic Flame ranking. Elder Crane was experienced and knowledgeable, so he immediately noticed that the blue flame was unusual. It must be a flame on the Mystic Flame ranking. Elder He even noticed some soul force fluctuations from the blue flames. In other words, not only did Ningyu use the flames on the exotic flame list, but he also used his peak 5th grade soul power. Elder He, the Indigo Spiritual Fire, is ranked 280th on the Mystic Fire ranking. Coupled with my peak grade 5 soul force, do you still have the confidence to withstand it? Ningyu added fuel to the fire when he saw Elder Crane's heart wavering. I warned you out of goodwill just now, but you didn't appreciate it. Are you regretting it now? Poochie. Old Crane was already regretting his decision. Now that he heard Ningyu's mocking words, he spat out a mouthful of blood and his chest heaved up and down. It was obvious that he had suffered a huge blow. When it rains, it pours. This was the best way to describe Old Crane. As he spat out a mouthful of blood, the blood essence defensive net in front of him was directly blasted apart by the shock waves of the Thunder Explosion Pearl's explosion. The Thunder Explosion Pearl had unleashed its last bit of power. After it blasted apart the blood essence defensive net, it tore off Old Crane's clothes, leaving his upper body bare. Old Crane couldn't be bothered to tidy up his tattered clothes. He quickly forced out a few more drops of his blood essence to resist the blue flames that were about to reach him. Arg! However, Old Crane had obviously underestimated the power of the blue flames this time. His blood essence only lasted for 0.1 seconds before it was defeated. Subsequently, the blue flames mixed with violent soul force fluctuations wreaked havoc on Old Crane's chest. Don't just stand there. Kill him while he's down. Seeing that the shock waves from the Thunder Explosion Pearl's explosion had dissipated, Ningyu immediately removed the sword formation and rushed toward Old Crane. Now was the best time to kill Old Crane. If he missed this opportunity, he wouldn't get another one. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Although the Alchemist Hall Master and the others hadn't recovered to their peak state, they didn't dare to be careless. They hurriedly followed behind Ningyu and rushed toward Old Crane. Old Crane's current strength wasn't even a tenth of his peak state. Ningyu and the Alchemist Hall Master attacked in unison. It was almost a one-sided battle. Old Crane didn't last long before he was defeated by Ningyu and the others. The Alchemist Hall Master immediately sealed Old Crane's sea of consciousness and brought him to Ningyu's side. He asked, Ningyu, how should we deal with him? Should we settle him on the spot? Don't be anxious. I have a few questions to ask him. Ningyu waved his hand, signaling the Alchemist Hall Master not to be anxious. What information do you want from me? Stop your wishful thinking. I won't say anything. Old Crane snorted coldly in a rather unyielding manner. Sun Jiangwen. Old Crane's stubbornness caused Ningyu to lose his patience and call Sun Jiangwen out. How confident are you that you can subdue him? Ningyu paused for a moment before continuing. What I mean is, make him obediently tell me everything he knows. I'm afraid that will be a little difficult. Sun Jiangwen thought for a moment and shook his head. I have a way to subdue an advanced yin-yang stage martial artist, but this old man is a pinnacle yin-yang stage martial artist. I can't do anything. Ha ha ha, Ningyu, what's the use of finding a pinnacle primal core martial artist? Although Old Crane was under Sun Jiangwen's control, he could still tell that Sun Jiangwen was a pinnacle primal core martial artist. Noisy. Ning Yu's face turned cold. His figure flashed and directly gave Old He a few slaps, causing Old He to see stars and be on the verge of collapse. If I can't subdue Old Crane, this will be a little tricky. Ning Yu fell into deep thought. Actually, Ning Yu's first thought was to kill Old Crane. After all, keeping a pinnacle yin-yang stage martial artist by his side was no different from carrying around a bomb that might explode at any time. After all, Old Crane was different from Black Whirlwind and Scorpion. If Black Whirlwind and Scorpion were killed, they could still blame it on the corpse insect powerhouses. Once Old Crane was killed, the consequences would be dire. Old Crane's status in the royal family was definitely not low. If he was killed, it would inevitably arouse Ouyang Ba's suspicion. If that happened, Ouyang Ba would search the entire city, and it would not be worth it. Ling Mian, how often does Old Crane meet with the royal family? After thinking about it, Ning Yu said in a deep voice, how do they meet? Did Old Crane go to the palace or did someone from the palace come? I'm not sure. Sometimes it's 1 day, sometimes it's 3 days. Usually, it's someone from the palace, but not long ago, Old Crane personally went to the palace and issued an order to arrest Lu Wei when he came back. Chapter 535. Chapter 535. Chapter 535. Dragon Guard. Oh? Tell me about it. Ning Yu raised his eyebrows and said without batting an eyelid. I can tell you, but you have to swear a heavenly oath. Once I tell you the reason, you have to let me go, Old Crane said calmly, appearing to have a card up his sleeve. Humph. As long as you can hold on for another 3 minutes, you'll be in for a treat. Old Crane thought that he had found Ning Yu's weakness. Wouldn't delaying him for 3 to 4 minutes be a piece of cake? The tremor in the void earlier meant that the Imperial Palace was going to send someone over. Furthermore, the person they were going to send over had a high cultivation. At the very least, he would be at the peak late-stage yin-yang realm. Now that Ning Yu and the others were like arrows at the end of their flight, Old He believed that a peak late-stage yin-yang martial artist could easily kill Ning Yu and the others. You want me to make a heavenly law oath? Ning Yu was dumbfounded by Old Crane's words. Since when could prisoners be so arrogant? She actually wanted him to swear an oath to the heavenly Tao. Had she lost her mind? I've already saved Lu Wei's parents. If I ask them, I'll naturally know why your majesty wants to capture Lu Wei. Ning Yu shrugged and said indifferently, Fine, I was thinking of sparing your life. Since you're courting death, then don't blame me. Immediately, Ning Yu turned around and said to the Alchemist Hall Master, Cripple his knowledge, see first, then we'll decide what to do next. Understood. The Hall Master Alchemist understood and immediately sent a wisp of his soul force into Old He's sea of knowledge. Ning Yu, you can't do this. Old Crane's eyes were filled with fear when he sensed a rather strong soul force entering his sea of consciousness. He hurriedly said, You are openly opposing the royal family by doing this. His Majesty will not let you go. Whether or not the Emperor will let me go, I don't know, but I know very well that I won't let you go now. Ning Yu's tone was cold, and he said to the Alchemist Hall Master, What are you waiting for? Ning Yu's cold words caused the Alchemist Hall Master to shiver uncontrollably. In the next moment, the eyes of the Alchemist Hall Master turned cold as he controlled the strand of soul power in Elder He's sea of consciousness to wreak havoc. Ning Yu, you will die a horrible death. The heart-wrenching pain in his sea of consciousness made Old He squeal like a pig being slaughtered. Elder He's screams were filled with despair. Although he was a martial artist at the peak of yin-yang realm, the destruction of his sea of consciousness meant that his life was over. Unless there was a peak 9th grade pill refiner who personally took action, coupled with a peak 9th grade pill refiner, there was only a glimmer of hope to heal his sea of consciousness. In the massive Great Xia Kingdom, an 8th grade alchemist was already a rare existence. A peak stage 9th grade alchemist? Not a single one. Therefore, the despair in Old Crane's eyes was understandable. Sun Jiangwen. Ningyu nodded when he saw that Old Crane's sea of consciousness had been destroyed. He asked in a deep voice, "How confident are you in subduing Old Crane now?" "I'm 100% confident." Sun Jiangwen did not dare to be negligent. It was a piece of cake for Sun Jiangwen to subdue a cripple whose sea of consciousness had been destroyed. "Then why are you telling me that you can't subdue him when I asked you earlier?" Ningyu looked displeased. If he knew that he could subdue Old Crane by destroying his sea of consciousness, he would not have wasted so much time. "I thought you wanted to preserve his combat strength," Sun Jiangwen mumbled. In Sun Jiangwen's opinion, subduing a cripple was useless. It would only be a waste of origin crystals. "What are you mumbling about? Hurry up and do it," Ningyu said coldly. "Yes, yes." Sun Jiangwen quickly gathered his thoughts and waved his sleeve. He immediately wrapped Old He up and put him into the storage ring. After Sun Jiangwen and the others disappeared, Ningyu thought for a moment and said, "The rest of you go into the storage ring too. Ling Yan stays behind. I have something to ask him." Swoosh, swoosh. The hall master of the alchemy division and the others followed closely behind Sun Jiangwen and entered the storage ring. At this moment, only Ning Yu and Ling Yan were left in the originally bustling secret chamber. "Ling Yan, what's the cultivation base of the martial artists sent by the Imperial Palace to contact you?" Ning Yu asked with a frown. "Generally speaking, their cultivation bases are around the early stage Yin-Yang realm, but we can't rule out—" "Oh no," Ling Yan said after pondering for a moment. However, Ling Yan's expression changed drastically before he could finish his sentence. "Oh no. The martial artists sent by the Imperial Palace have reached the first line of defense." "What's their cultivation base?" Ningyu asked in a deep voice. "The peak late-stage Yin-Yang realm," Ling Yan replied. "Let's go. We'll use the teleportation array to go to the Evil Cloud Pavilion first. You find a way to lure that martial artist to the Evil Cloud Pavilion." Ningyu immediately rushed out of the secret chamber and headed toward the secret chamber where Old He was. The teleportation array was in Old He's secret chamber, and they could reach the Evil Cloud Pavilion quickly from there. Ningyu knew very well that he was no match for a martial artist at the peak late-stage Yin-Yang realm in his current physical condition. He could only retreat in order to advance. He would lure that martial artist to the Evil Cloud Pavilion first, then find a way to activate the Evil Cloud Pavilion's array formation to deal with him. Within half an hour in the Evil Cloud Pavilion's bronze secret chamber, the mysterious man had not only taught Ning Yu the 9 return to one sword array, but he had also told Ning Yu the method to activate the Evil Cloud Pavilion's internal array formation. As long as he could activate the internal array formation, Ning Yu was confident that he could fight a martial artist at the peak of Yin-Yang realm. "Open the passage." At the same time, a middle-aged man at the Snow Pavilion's first line of defense said in a deep voice, "I want to see Old He." Token. Although the middle-aged man's cultivation base was at the peak late-stage Yin-Yang realm, the martial artist guarding the passage still extended his hand and said calmly, "No one can pass without the token." Swoosh. The middle-aged man waved his sleeve, and a golden token shot out. Smack. The slightly plump martial artist took the token and looked at it. Then, his expression became extremely respectful as he said, "I'll open the passage now." Then, the slightly plump martial artist personally took out 2 supreme-grade origin crystals and threw them into the hole in the passage. Swoosh. As soon as the passage was opened, the middle-aged man's figure flashed, and he went in. After the middle-aged man disappeared, an early-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist next to him came over and asked, "Who was that? You've never been so respectful to Master Scorpion." The slightly plump martial artist did not answer immediately. Instead, he took a deep breath and said slowly, "Have you heard of the Hidden Dragon Guards? If I'm not mistaken, That person should be the deputy captain of the Hidden Dragon Guards. Hidden Dragon Guards. Hearing this, the other 3 early yin-yang stage martial artists sucked in a breath of cold air. They had heard of the Hidden Dragon Guards before. They were Ouyang Ba's Imperial Guards, and they answered directly to Ouyang Ba. They held great power, and they could act first and report later. Chapter 536. Chapter 536 of WR Take advantage of an opportunity. Whoosh. In the narrow passageway, a martial artist moved extremely fast, almost using all the strength in his body. This cultivator was none other than Ling Mian, who had rushed over from the Evil Cloud Pavilion at full speed. After arriving at the Evil Cloud Pavilion from the deepest part of the Snow-Field Pavilion's Forbidden Land, Ling Mian rushed to the first line of defense without stopping. The order Ning Yu gave him was very simple, with only a few words. Lure the Evil Cloud Pavilion here. A martial artist at the peak of the late-stage yin-yang realm was not easy to deceive. Even though Ling Mian's cultivation was also at the late-stage yin-yang realm, he could not help but feel a headache at this moment. The slightest carelessness would expose the fact that he was being controlled. Right now, his fate was in the hands of Ning Yu. Once he was exposed, Ning Yu would definitely abandon him. After all, in the entire Snow Domain Pavilion, only he knew Ning Yu's true identity and could contact the outside world. Halt! Suddenly, Ling Mian's heart turned cold and he hurriedly stopped. Ling Mian was extremely shocked as he looked at the cultivator who had appeared out of nowhere. In fact, it was no wonder that Ling Mian was shocked because the middle-aged man had appeared without a sound. Even with his powerful perception, he did not notice any clues. One must know that even if Old Crane were to appear, he would still be able to detect some clues. In other words, the middle-aged man in front of him was probably even stronger than Elder He. Ling Mian was extremely shocked. He took a deep breath and followed Ning Yu's instructions with a cold face. This is the forbidden area of the Snow Domain Pavilion. What do you want? Peak late-stage yin-yang realm. The yuan qi in his body is weak and superficial. The middle-aged man didn't answer Ling Mian's question. Instead, he stared at Ling Mian for a while before saying, "Looks like it's time to talk to Elder He. If it doesn't work, then the Hidden Dragon Guard will take over Snow Domain Pavilion." What? You're from the Hidden Dragon Guards? Hearing that, Ling Mian's mouth opened slightly, revealing a look of disbelief. The Hidden Dragon Guard was a mysterious organization. It was rumored that the requirements to be selected were extremely strict. The lowest cultivation level was the early yin-yang realm. Furthermore, the Hidden Dragon Guards were directly under the command of the Emperor of the Great Xia Kingdom. It could be said that they were the left and right arms of the Emperor. The martial artist in front of him was at the peak late-stage yin-yang realm. It seemed that his position in the Hidden Dragon Guards was not low. What's there to be surprised about? Take me to see Old Crane. I don't have time to waste here with you. The middle-aged man waved his hand and gestured for Ling Mian to lead the way. Why aren't you leaving? Seeing Ling Mian standing there, the middle-aged man's face turned gloomy. It seemed that, under Elder He's jurisdiction, the Snow Region Pavilion's martial artists were not only weak, but also arrogant. This time, no matter what, he had to fix the Snow Domain Pavilion. The middle-aged man thought. You said that you are from the Hidden Dragon Guard. What proof do you have? Ling Mian said in a deep voice, not giving any face to the middle-aged man. Humph. The middle-aged man snorted coldly when he heard Ling Mian's words. He flicked his sleeve and a golden token was thrown towards Ling Mian. But Ling Mian reacted quickly and grabbed the token in his hand. You are the vice-captain of the Hidden Dragon Guards. When Ling Mian saw the large words on the golden token, his heart skipped a beat. He quickly said, Old He is at the Evil Cloud Pavilion. I'll bring you to see him now. Lead the way. The middle-aged man said in a deep voice. Ling Mian did not dare to delay. His figure flashed as he flew toward the evil cloud pavilion. Ling Mian knew his strength very well. In the hidden dragon guards, he could only be considered a middle-level member at best. However, the middle-aged man in front of him could become the vice-captain of the hidden dragon guards with a cultivation base at the peak of the late-stage yin-yang realm. This showed that he was very powerful. The vice-captain of the hidden dragon guards, since the middle-aged man was the vice-captain of the hidden dragon guards, Ling Mian began to think. Being controlled by Ningyu, he was almost like a puppet. The middle-aged man might be able to remove Ningyu's control over him and free him. However, as soon as this thought appeared in Ling Mian's mind, he felt a heart-wrenching pain that made him tremble. The heart-wrenching pain only lasted for a second before it disappeared. Although the pain had disappeared, Ling Mian still felt waves of fear. He had been discovered by Ningyu. Fortunately, he was flying at full speed, and the middle-aged man's attention was not on him. Otherwise, he could almost imagine the consequences. Ningyu would definitely abandon him and use him to injure the middle-aged man. After being reminded by Ningyu, Ling Mian became well-behaved. He did not dare to let his imagination run wild and immediately sped up toward the evil cloud pavilion. Swoosh! Swoosh! Ling Mian and the middle-aged man were very fast. They arrived at the evil cloud pavilion in a short while. Wait! The middle-aged man stood in front of the evil cloud pavilion and did not enter immediately. As the vice-captain of the hidden dragon guards, the middle-aged man was unusually calm and careful. He released his perception, wanting to explore the so-called evil cloud pavilion. After a while, the middle-aged man retracted his perception and said, "Lead the way." In the hall of the evil cloud pavilion, Ningyu sat on the main seat. At this moment, Ningyu's entire body was wrapped in a black robe. He emitted an aura at the peak of the yin-yang realm. This aura was exactly the same as Old Crane's. There was no difference at all. Swoosh! Since the door of the hall where Ningyu sat was not closed, the middle-aged man followed the aura to the front of the hall as soon as he entered the evil cloud pavilion. Moreover, the middle-aged man did not linger in front of the hall. He turned into a shadow and flew into the hall. "You, Old Crane?" After entering the hall, the middle-aged man frowned slightly. He stared at Ningyu, who sat on the main seat with a displeased expression. "How dare you sit there calmly after seeing me? What's going on? Doesn't he know Old Crane?" Ningyu was very confused. Based on the middle-aged man's words, it seemed like he had never seen Old Crane before. If that was the case, things would be easier to handle. With that thought in mind, Ningyu said calmly, "May I know why you've come to the snow pavilion?" The middle-aged man was the vice-captain of the hidden dragon guards. In terms of strength, he was slightly stronger than Old Crane. In terms of status, he was not inferior to Old Crane. Old Crane's condescending attitude made the middle-aged man very unhappy. Since he was unhappy, the middle-aged man decided to teach Old Crane a lesson. After scoffing, the middle-aged man tore open the void and walked in. Bam! However, as soon as the middle-aged man entered the void, he seemed to be hit by something. He was forcefully squeezed out of the void. It was obvious that the middle-aged man had crashed hard on the ground and fell face first. F***ck. Coincidentally, Ling Mian saw the middle-aged man falling on the ground, causing him to curse. The middle-aged man was the vice-captain of the hidden dragon guards. His cultivation base was at the peak of the yin-yang realm. What kind of trick did Ningyu use to defeat him? One must know that Ningyu had just gone through a huge battle and was still in a weakened state. Dong. Chapter 537. The wind rises. The thumping sound of Ningyu knocking on the chair entered the middle-aged man's ears, causing his expression to darken. He had never expected Old Crane to be so powerful. Could it be that he has already advanced to the half-step to creation realm? Although the middle-aged man was very strong, He was no match for a martial artist who was half a step into the manifestation realm. No. His cultivation is only at the peak of the yin-yang realm, or even just an ordinary peak of the yin-yang realm. Soon enough, the middle-aged man rejected the idea. From the aura that old he emitted, the middle-aged man could tell that old he was only a peak yin-yang realm martial artist. There are two main reasons why I'm here. The middle-aged man was able to keep his composure. After he stood up from the ground, he patted his clothes and said, "The first thing is to get Lu Wei before tomorrow night. Excuse me." Ningyu waved his hand and interrupted the middle-aged man, asking, "Before you speak, can you introduce yourself first? Don't you think it's rude?" Crack. It was one thing to be interrupted by Ningyu, but Ningyu's tone made the middle-aged man very unhappy. Although he was unhappy, the middle-aged man took a deep breath and said, "I'm Zhou Tao, the deputy captain of the Hidden Dragon Guards. I'm at the peak late-stage yin-yang realm. I'm here on the Emperor's order. I have two things to tell you." "Oh, so his name is Zhou Tao. I thought he didn't have a name." Ningyu nodded and said, "Now you can tell me what those two things are." "The first thing is to send Lu Wei to the Imperial Palace before tomorrow night," Zhou Tao said coldly. "This matter is a little tricky. If Lu Wei hides in Danwu College, I don't have much of a solution." Ningyu imitated Elder He's tone and said, "Go back and tell His Majesty that I will do my best in this matter. I won't let him down. Tell His Majesty when the time comes." Zhou Tao didn't care what Ningyu said. After all, this was not his main purpose for coming to the Snow Pavilion. He was just mentioning it in passing. The second matter is that the third prince was killed by someone from the Assassination Pavilion. His Majesty wants you to go to the Assassination Pavilion. Zhou Tao continued, personally investigate the matter of the third prince's death. Even the third prince was killed? Hearing Zhou Tao's words, Ningyu revealed an exaggerated expression. "Not long ago, my Black Whirlwind was also killed. All signs point to the corpse sect being the one who killed Black Whirlwind. In any case, Zhou Tao was the vice-captain of the Hidden Dragon Guards. At this time, Ningyu blamed Black Whirlwind's death on the Yin Corpse sect. Even if he killed Old He in the future, it wouldn't be too abrupt. Not long ago, the people I sent came back with news that several experts of the Corpse Yin sect were found in the forest outside the capital." At this point, Ningyu paused for a bit before continuing, "Captain Zhou, are you interested in coming with me to meet the people from the Corpse sect?" In the end, Ningyu added, "The strength of those experts from the Corpse Yin sect is not too strong. The weakest is about the same as you." Hiss. Ningyu's words caused Zhou Tao to suck in a breath of cold air. The weakest was on par with him? Didn't that mean that all the powerful cultivators of the Corpse Yin sect had come out? If all the experts of the Corpse Yin sect were to move, it would be a great challenge for the Imperial family and the Hidden Dragon Guards. After all, the experts of the Corpse Yin sect wouldn't come to the capital for no reason. Since they came, there was an 80% chance that they were here to assassinate the Emperor. Thinking of this, Zhou Tao said in a deep voice, "I will report this matter to His Majesty and let him decide. I advise you not to act rashly. If you act rashly and alert them, the consequences are not something you can bear." Buzz. Just at this moment, Zhou Tao's expression changed. He quickly took out a crystal ball from his pocket. With Ningyu's eyesight, he could naturally see a line of small words on the crystal ball. "Traces of the experts of the Corpse Yin sect have been discovered. Return to the Imperial Palace immediately." Seeing the words on the crystal ball, Ningyu was dumbfounded. Did his casual words really come true? The Corpse Yin sect really sent experts to the capital? "Old Crane, I have already passed on the message. As for whether you listen or not, it has nothing to do with me." Zhou Tao put away the crystal ball and said to Ningyu, "There are two things I need to do. Send Lu Wei to the Imperial Palace tomorrow night and personally go to the assassination pavilion to investigate the matter of the third prince's death. Swish. As his voice fell, Zhou Tao's figure flashed and he immediately rushed out of the main hall. The pressure here was too great for Zhou Tao. He felt as if he was trapped in a cage, and it was very uncomfortable. It was naturally excellent to be able to leave quickly. Ningyu did not stop Zhou Tao from leaving. After all, it was really unwise to trap Zhou Tao at this critical juncture. Dong dong. After Zhou Tao left, Ningyu habitually knocked his finger on the chair, making a dong dong sound. After a while, Ningyu said to Ling Mian, "Find a way to contact Qing Wu and the pale-faced scholar. See where they are. If possible, make them return to the Snow Domain Pavilion tomorrow morning." Yes. As soon as Ningyu's voice fell, Ling Mian's heart skipped a beat. He had vaguely guessed what Ningyu was going to do. If there was no accident, Ningyu definitely wanted to control Qing Wu and the pale-faced scholar. Ling Mian knew very well that Qing Wu and the pale-faced scholar were both late-stage yin-yang realm martial artists like him. Their strength was much stronger than his. With Ningyu's means, controlling Qing Wu and the pale-faced scholar was much better than controlling him. Ningyu that, however, before Ling Mian could leave the hall, Sun Jiangwen's words rang in Ningyu's mind. There aren't enough crystals. What? Ningyu stood up from the chair with a swoosh, his face full of disbelief. Say that again? Ningyu's sudden action made Ling Mian a little dumbfounded as he stood on the spot in a daze. There's clearly more in the storage ring. F***CK. Where did the transcendent grade crystals in the storage ring go? Ningyu extended his perception and quietly entered the storage ring. However, when Ningyu saw that there were only a few hundred transcendent grade crystals left in the storage ring, he was immediately dumbfounded. Wasn't this too F***king ridiculous? Wasn't there still more than 400,000 transcendent grade crystals in the storage ring? Why was there suddenly only a few hundred left? All the transcendent grade crystals were taken by the Dark Emperor. He only left me 20,000 transcendent grade crystals. Sun Jiangwen began to complain. The two formations in the storage ring consume a large number of transcendent grade crystals at every moment. Moreover, if you want Elder He to be obedient to you, you need at least 100,000 transcendent grade crystals. 100,000? Why don't you go rob me? Ningyu went berserk on the spot. Sun Jiangwen once said that it consumed 20,000 transcendent grade crystals to control Ling Mian. This number was still acceptable to Ningyu. After all, Ling Mian was a late-stage yin-yang realm martial artist with strong combat power. However, what the hell was with Elder He? Elder He's sea of consciousness was destroyed, and controlling a piece of trash required 100,000 transcendent grade crystals? Most importantly, Sun Jiangwen had already used 20,000 transcendent grade crystals. Chapter 538. Preparation. Old Crane is a martial artist at the peak of the yin-yang realm. Although his sea of consciousness has been destroyed, if you want him to be obedient to you, you will need at least 100,000 supreme grade essence crystals. Sun Jiangwen felt a little wronged. With his ability, he could only control late-stage yin-yang realm martial artists at most. If one were to control a martial artist at the peak of the yin-yang realm, even if that martial artist's sea of consciousness was destroyed, it would still require 100,000 transcendent grade essence crystals. Let's do this for now. When I have the remaining 80,000 origin crystals, you can go and control Old He. At this point, Ningyu could only compromise. Since he had already used up 20,000 transcendent grade essence crystals, if he were to stop like this, he would inevitably suffer a loss. Moreover, Old Crane's status in the imperial family should be quite high, so he should be able to obtain some useful information from him. Poochie. However, what Sun Jiangwen said next caused Ningyu to vomit a mouthful of blood. You must find 80,000 supreme-grade origin crystals within half an hour. Otherwise, you'll need to double the amount of origin crystals you'll need to control Old He. Sun Jiangwen carefully extended 2 fingers and said, 200,000 supreme-grade essence crystals. Come out, I promise I won't kill you. Ningyu flicked his wrist and tossed the storage ring into the air. Whoosh! In the next instant, Sun Jiangwen flew out from the storage ring. What do you think I should do now? Where do you expect me to find 80,000 transcendent-grade origin crystals in half an hour? Ningyu wished he could slap Sun Jiangwen a few times. Only he could think of finding 80,000 transcendent-grade essence crystals in half an hour. Seeing that Ningyu was enraged, Sun Jiangwen stood still, not daring to breathe loudly. Sun Jiangwen was not a fool. If he spoke now, he would definitely be scolded by Ningyu, so he might as well play dumb. Lingmian, how many transcendent-grade essence crystals are there in the Snow Domain Pavilion? After thinking for a while, Ningyu said to Lingmian, don't contact Qing Wu and the others for now. Get me all the Supreme Yuan crystals from the Snow Pavilion. I need them urgently. That. Hearing Ningyu's words, Sun Jiangwen awkwardly scratched his head and said, when we took over Shuiyu Pavilion, we emptied it of all its resources. Right now, Shuiyu Pavilion is just an empty shell. We can't even find a single Supreme Yuan crystal. F***ck. Ningyu couldn't help but swear. This was too F***king unfortunate. Was Elder He born in the year of the mouse? He actually emptied Snow Domain Pavilion's resources. Do you have any Supreme Origin crystals on you? If you do, take them out. Ningyu placed his hopes on Lingmian and the others. But unfortunately, Lingmian, the Alchemist Hall Master, and the others added up, they only managed to gather less than 1,000 transcendent-grade essence crystals. This made Ningyu suspect that they were hiding something. One had to know that Gui Air from the Corpse Sex Ghost Palace had 800,000 transcendent-grade essence crystals on him. Why did these Yin-Yang realm martial artists only have a few hundred transcendent-grade essence crystals? If the Alchemist Hall Master and the others knew what Ningyu was thinking, they would probably vomit blood. The reason why Gui Air had so many transcendent-grade essence crystals was completely because of his dog *T luck. He obtained them from an ancient cave abode. An ordinary martial artist would be lucky to have 10,000 transcendent-grade essence crystals, let alone 800,000. Ningyu, why don't we make a trip to the Assassination Pavilion? There should be a lot of transcendent-grade essence crystals there. Lingmian hesitated and said, we can go there in the name of investigating the third prince's murder. It'll be a piece of cake to extort 100,000 transcendent-grade essence crystals. Let's go there a few times. With our current strength and condition, I don't think we can even enter the forbidden area of the Assassination Pavilion. Ningyu directly rejected Lingmian and said, let's go to Danwu College. There was no way they could get 80,000 transcendent-grade essence crystals in half an hour. Instead of waiting here, they might as well return to Danwu College first. Ningyu estimated that as long as he could find the energy equivalent to 80,000 transcendent-grade essence crystals, he should be able to help Sun Jiangwen control Old Crane. In fact, Ningyu chose to return to Danwu College this time out of many considerations. First, he wanted to see Lu Wei and tell her that he had already rescued her parents and that there was no need to come to Snow Domain Pavilion before tomorrow night. Second, he wanted to see the first dean of Danwu College, Wei Zongtian. Ningyu was also curious about what exactly was inside the golden box he obtained from Frost Manor. The current Ningyu's strength had improved significantly compared to the first time he met Wei Zongtian. With his strength, Ningyu naturally wouldn't be afraid of Wei Zongtian snatching the golden box away. Moreover, the one Wei Zongtian left in Danwu College's Danwu pool was only a phantom image and not a physical body. Swish. Although he was going to Danwu College, Ningyu didn't leave Snow Domain Pavilion immediately. Instead, he disguised himself as Old Crane and took a stroll outside the capital. Ningyu also had Ling Mian spread the news that Old Crane left Snow Domain Pavilion because of Black Whirlwind's death. Ningyu wanted to create a false impression that Old Crane left Snow Domain Pavilion to investigate Black Whirlwind's death. In any case, those who knew that Old Crane was captured were all in the storage ring. They wouldn't dare to say anything even if they were given 8 guts. Ningyu didn't dare to stay outside the capital for too long. After all, he only had half an hour left. Once half an hour passed, he would need to spend 200,000 transcendent grade essence crystals to control Old Crane. I must go there tomorrow. While Ningyu was rushing to Danwu College, Danwu College's Sacred Institute, Dongfang Ji's room, a young woman's face showed a strong determination. My parents are in Snow Domain Pavilion. If I don't go there, I won't be able to feel at ease for the rest of my life. Don't mess around. Dongfang Ji was having a headache. He knew that there were many Yin-Yang realm martial artists among the mysterious forces that occupied Snow Domain Pavilion. There were no less than 10. There was even a pinnacle Yin-Yang realm martial artist among them. Not to mention Lu Wei. Even if he went there personally, he wouldn't be able to rescue Lu Wei's parent. Ningyu sent you here because he trusts me. Before Ningyu returns, you better stay in the room obediently. Don't go anywhere, Dongfang Ji said solemnly. Dongfang Ji said solemnly, as for the matter of your parents, I'll go discuss it with the higher-ups of the Danwu Academy to see if there's a better solution. Although Dongfang Ji said so, he knew very well that this matter was most likely going to fall through. There were many factions in Danwu College, and their interests were tangled and complicated. It was conceivable that they wouldn't go against the mysterious forces of Snow Domain Pavilion just for Lu Wei. In short, the loss outweighed the gain. Given Lu Wei's talent and strength, it wasn't worth it for them to do that. Dean Dongfang, I can make my own decisions. These days, Lu Wei more or less heard that the mysterious forces that occupied Snow Domain Pavilion were very powerful. Ningyu was a core disciple of Danwu College's Sacred Institute, and his future achievements were destined to be great. She didn't want Ningyu to get involved. Chapter 539. Suspicions. If I say no, then no. If you continue to be obstinate, I will. Who? How could Dongfang Ji allow Lu Wei to do as she pleased? With Lu Wei's Xiantian cultivation, she probably wouldn't even be able to enter Snow Domain Pavilion's main entrance, let alone save her parents. However, before Dongfang Ji could finish his sentence, he heard knocking on the door. Dean Dongfang, it's me, Yan Hui. A familiar voice came from outside the door. What's the matter? Dongfang Ji was a little puzzled. He had already ordered that without his permission, no one was allowed to approach his residence. Where did Yan Hui get the guts to actually dare to disobey him? Ningyu is back. Outside the door, Yan Hui said respectfully, he wants to see Lu Wei. He's back, Dongfang Ji frowned and glanced at Lu Wei. Then, he said in a clear voice, let him in. Dean Dongfang, Ningyu wants me to bring Lu Wei over, Yan Hui said while gritting his teeth. What? Dongfang Ji's mouth was slightly agape. He couldn't believe what he had just heard. Ningyu had only left Danwu College for a short period of time, and he had already become so arrogant? He had to kill Ningyu's arrogance. Otherwise, he would only be cannon fodder in the 100 Academy tournament. Dean Dongfang, Ningyu was invited to the Danwu pool by the Xianming elders the moment he entered Danwu College, Yan Hui hurriedly said, not daring to be negligent. Recalling the scene back then, Yan Hui was also confused. At that time, he was just about to leave Danwu College. Who would have thought that he would bump into Ningyu at the entrance? Just when he wanted to greet Ningyu, the Xianming elders suddenly appeared. Without any explanation, they held Ningyu on both sides, saying that they wanted to bring Ningyu to the Danwu pool. Ningyu tried his best to buy some time. He instructed him to invite Lu Wei to the Dan Wu pool, as he had something important to tell Lu Wei. As a matter of fact, Yan Hui's own matters had also fallen behind, and he hurriedly ran to Dongfang Ji's place. Dan Wu Pond again? Dongfang Ji's heart tightened for no reason. Then, he said without batting an eyelid, Lu Wei is here. Whether she wants to go to the Danwu pool or not, it's not up to me. Creak. Dongfang Ji opened the door and walked out. He said to Yan Hui, whether she's willing to go to the Dan Marshall pool with you or not, it's all up to you. Thank you, Dean Dongfang. Yan Hui revealed a joyful expression and hurriedly entered the room. With Lu Wei's stubborn temper, I reckon what? Dongfang Ji was almost certain that at this critical juncture, Lu Wei definitely wouldn't go and meet Ningyu. However, before Dongfang Ji's voice faded, his mouth opened slightly, revealing a look of disbelief, because he saw that Lu Wei actually left the room with Yan Hui. Furthermore, Lu Wei's expression seemed to be very anxious. Until Yan Hui and Lu Wei disappeared from his sight, Dongfang Ji still felt very confused. Didn't Lu Wei know that after meeting Ningyu definitely wouldn't let her return to Snow Domain Pavilion? Yan Hui, Ningyu really has a way to save my parents? On the way to the Dan Marshall pool, Lu Wei urged Yan Hui while asking, you can't lie to me. You need to know the consequences of lying to me. When you see Ningyu later, you'll naturally understand. Actually, I don't know much either. Yan Hui felt a headache from Lu Wei's incessant questioning. To put it bluntly, he was only a messenger. Ningyu didn't tell him the specifics. Yan Hui definitely didn't believe that Ningyu had the ability to save Lu Wei's parents. His thoughts were similar to Dongfang Ji's. He thought that Ningyu called Lu Wei over to trap her and ensure that she wouldn't run around tomorrow. Dongfang Ji's residence wasn't too far from the Dan Marshall pool. Not long later, Yan Hui and Lu Wei stopped in front of a stone door. Little girl, stay. In front of the stone door, Elder Xian waved his hand at Yan Hui and said, you can scram now. Yan Hui was a little embarrassed, but he still chose to leave tactfully. After Yan Hui left, Elder Xian stared at Lu Swan for a while and said with a frown, you're at the Xiantian stage and your soul power is at the 2nd grade. There's nothing special about you. Why does Ningyu value you so much? As he spoke, Elder Xian shook his head. He grabbed Lu Wei's shoulder and dashed through the stone door. Senior, where are we going? Where's Ningyu? Elder Xian's speed was very fast, causing Lu Wei to be unable to speak clearly. You'll know in a while. Elder Xian didn't slow down but increased his speed instead. After a while, Elder Xian stopped in front of a secret room. Old Man Ming, where's Ningyu? Looking at the familiar figure in front of the secret room, Elder Xian asked doubtfully, didn't I tell you to wait for me here? Could it be that Ningyu entered the secret room? Just now, the dean sent a message for Ningyu to go in first. Elder Ming glanced at Lu Wei and said, but the dean personally instructed us to help Lu Wei increase her strength. He wants us to help her increase her strength? Elder Xian couldn't believe his ears. Who was the dean? He actually cared about a little girl at the Xiantian stage. Right, Ningyu asked me to pass a message to you. He wants you to focus on increasing your strength. He'll explain everything to you tomorrow morning. Elder Ming seemed to have thought of something and continued. Let's go. We'll go to the Dan pool to increase our soul power first. Elder Ming's tone was unquestionable. He directly left with Lu Wei. As for Elder Xian, although he was very doubtful, he didn't ask much. Instead, he followed closely behind Elder Ming and flew towards the Dan pool. Ningyu, you've done well. Not only did you find the real Marshall pool, you even obtained the golden box at the bottom of the pool. In a secret room, an illusory figure floated in midair and spoke in a clear voice. Below the illusory figure, Ningyu's expression was devoid of joy or sorrow. He said indifferently, Dean Wei, I have a question I'd like to ask you. The illusory figure was Wei Zongtian. At this moment, he raised his eyebrows and said, "Let's hear it." Ningyu waved his sleeves and the golden box immediately appeared in his hand. Waving the golden box in his hand, Ningyu asked doubtfully, "Can you tell me what exactly is in this golden box?" Looking at the golden box in Ningyu's hand, Wei Zongtian's eyes revealed a fervent expression. However, this fervent expression disappeared in a flash and was quickly concealed by him. "Actually, even if you didn't ask, I would have told you." Wei Zongtian took a deep breath and explained, "I once told you that Chu Tianming saved an injured heaven-devouring dog, which ultimately led to a fatal disaster. The item in the golden box is the remnant of that injured heaven-devouring dog. Chu Tianming asked me to find the remnant of the heaven-devouring dog. I'm just an illusory body and can't leave the Dan Marshall pool. That's why I asked you to find the real Marshall pool. Dinwei, you still haven't told me what exactly is in the golden box." Ningyu waved the golden box in his hand again and said, "In my opinion, why don't we open it here?" Chapter 540. Chapter 540. Confrontation. Wait! Ningyu's sudden action startled Wei Zongtian. He quickly said, "You can't break the box. If you really want to know what's inside, give it to me. I'll open it for you." "Give you the box?" Ningyu put away the golden box and said hesitantly, "It's not impossible, but I have a condition." "What condition?" Wei Zongtian asked. "I'm going to the Marshal Qi for an hour. I'll naturally give you the golden box after an hour," Ningyu said calmly. "You're going to the Marshal Qi for an hour?" Wei Zongtian frowned and fell into deep thought. A moment later, Wei Zongtian gritted his teeth and said, "That's not a problem at all. The Marshal Qi is always open for you. There's no time to lose. I'm going to the Marshal Qi now." Ningyu did not want to waste time here and immediately urged. It had been more than 20 minutes since he left Snowfield Pavilion. If he could not find the energy equivalent to 80,000 supreme-grade yuan crystals, he would need 200,000 supreme-grade yuan crystals to control Old He. More than 200,000 supreme-grade yuan crystals would be enough to make Ningyu's heart ache for a long time. "Let's go." Wei Zongtian was not an indecisive person. He immediately left the secret chamber with Ningyu. Since the Marshal Qi was not in the secret chamber, Wei Zongtian could only rush to the Marshal Qi with Ningyu. Soon, Ningyu and Wei Zongtian arrived at the secret chamber where the Marshal Qi was. Plop! Ningyu did not hesitate and directly jumped into the Marshal Qi. "Hee, you're completely making a wedding dress for me." Looking at Ningyu gradually sinking to the bottom of the Marshal Qi, the corner of Wei Zongtian's mouth curled up and he said with a sinister smile, "If I'm not wrong, when that little guy finishes absorbing the energy in the Marshal Qi, he'll break out of his cocoon and become a butterfly." Ningyu did not know what Wei Zongtian was muttering. After jumping into the Marshal pool, Ningyu dove towards the bottom with all his might. Moreover, Ningyu communicated with Sun Jiangwen as he sank. "The energy here is more abundant. Quickly absorb it and control Old Crane." Hearing Ningyu's words, Sun Jiangwen did not dare to be negligent. He quickly activated the array and began to absorb the energy from the pool. Walala! In an instant, a powerful suction force emerged from the storage ring, and it began to absorb the pure energy at the bottom of the Marshal pool without any restraint. Not bad at all. You're faster than I expected." Wei Zongtian floated above the Marshal pond and nodded his head in satisfaction when he saw the changes. Although the little guy's absorption speed might be slower in the later stages, it will need at most 2 hours to completely devour the energy in this Marshal pool. At that time, I can use it to raise the strength of this clone to the limit. Whoosh! At the bottom of the Marshal pool, while Sun Jiangwen was absorbing the pure energy, Ningyu took out the golden box with a swoosh. Although the golden box had been quiet for a long time, Ningyu still had lingering fears. Back in the ice mansion, the golden box had instantly devoured all the energy in the real martial pool. Ningyu could still remember it vividly. If the golden box went crazy and devoured all the energy in the martial pool, wouldn't Ningyu have no tears to cry? Woof woof. Just as Ningyu's thoughts were running wild, he heard a faint barking of a dog. Ningyu was slightly stunned when he heard the barking of a dog. Then, a shocked expression appeared on his face. This was the second time he heard the barking of a dog. The first time was in the ice mansion. At that time, the dog was very anxious and wanted Ningyu to save it. Although the dog's barking wasn't very urgent, it was still quite urgent. What do you want? Ningyu tried to ask in a low voice. Woof woof woof. However, the barking of the dog in Ningyu's ears did not change. Ningyu was speechless. It seemed that communicating with a dog was indeed very difficult. Ningyu was in a dilemma. The Dark Emperor was resting, and he did not understand dog language. How was he going to communicate with this little dog? Woof woof. The barking of the dog continued, and it was getting more and more anxious. If you still want to devour energy, bark twice. If not, bark thrice. Ningyu rolled his eyes and thought of a countermeasure. Woof, woof. Then 2 barks sounded in Ningyu's ears. So you still want to devour energy? Ningyu was a little speechless. Were the sky-devouring dogs all bottomless pits that devoured energy like eating? Not now. I'll let you know when it's possible. Under normal circumstances, Ningyu might let it devour the energy in the Wu-Chi realm. However, not now. Sun Jiangwen was absorbing energy, and Ningyu did not dare to let it go. Woof. Perhaps it understood Ningyu's words, but after the puppy in the golden box barked once, it fell silent and no longer spoke. At the same time, in the storage ring, beside the stone bed, Lu Durong looked at the endless stream of pure energy entering the storage ring. His mouth was slightly open, and a look of shock appeared on his face. These people are all following Ningyu's orders. Lu Durong's eyes slowly swept across the hall master of alchemy and the others, and he murmured, "What kind of person is Ningyu? How can he control a yin-yang advanced stage martial artist and a 7th grade pinnacle alchemist?" Lu Durong's shock was not surprising. He had been in the storage ring for a long time, and Elder He had not come after him. It was obvious that he had been taken away from Snow Domain Pavilion by Ningyu. Moreover, he had seen Ling Mian sitting on the ground in the distance. "Pavilion Master Lu, Ningyu asked me to tell you that your daughter is fine now." While Lu Durong was still in shock, Feng Zi quietly came to his side and said, "When it's convenient, he will arrange for you to meet with your daughter." In fact, when Ningyu returned to Snow Domain Pavilion from outside the capital, he had told Feng Zi to comfort Lu Wei's father. No matter what, he could not let him do anything stupid. Ever since he hid from Spirit Fox No. 1 and entered the storage ring, Feng Zi had not left the storage ring. During this period, Ling Mian and Elder He appeared in the storage ring, all of which made Feng Zi feel extremely shocked. Feng Zi was almost numb from the shock, and he also re-evaluated Ningyu's strength. After the re-evaluation, Feng Zi found that the gap between him and Ningyu was getting bigger and bigger, to the point where it was immeasurable. Although the gap between him and Ningyu was getting bigger and bigger, Feng Zi was not discouraged because of this. Instead, he was more excited. Perhaps as Ningyu's strength improved, he might be able to help him. Time passed by minute, second by second, and Sun Jiangwen was also rapidly absorbing the energy in the martial pool. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours had passed. "It's done." When Ningyu heard Sun Jiangwen's voice in his mind, a look of excitement appeared between his brows. After 2 hours of hard work, Sun Jiangwen finally lived up to his expectations and completely controlled Elder He. Although Elder He's sea of consciousness had been destroyed, the secrets of the imperial family that he knew were still very helpful to Ningyu. After taking a deep breath, Ningyu said to Sun Jiangwen, Chapter 541. Chapter 541. Revealing his true colors, understood. Sun Jiangwen responded to Ning Yu's words and did not say anything else. He devoted himself to interrogating Elder Crane. After following Ning Yu for so long, Sun Jiangwen had basically figured out Ning Yu's temper. In short, he had to complete whatever Ning Yu asked him to do. Otherwise, the consequences would be dire. Sun Jiangwen knew very well that if he had not set up 2 formations in the storage ring, Ning Yu would have gotten rid of him a long time ago. Therefore, Sun Jiangwen did not dare to delay and tried his best to interrogate Elder Crane as soon as possible. Swoosh! After Elder Crane's matters were settled, Ning Yu shook his wrist and took out the golden box again. Woof woof! The golden box barked urgently as if it was trying to break free from Ning Yu's grasp. Hee, you can devour the energy inside now. Devour as much as you want. F***ck. Ning Yu smiled and threw the golden box in his hand. However, as soon as Ning Yu threw the golden box out, his eyes widened and his face filled with shock. Whoosh! A powerful suction force suddenly erupted from the golden box and devoured 1/10 of the energy in the pool in an instant. This speed of devouring shocked Ning Yu. However, compared to the speed at which the golden box devoured energy in Frost Manor, the speed at which it was devouring energy now was still acceptable to Ning Yu. It was not too ridiculous. Moreover, the golden box devoured the energy faster in the beginning, but as time passed, the speed became slower and slower. At this speed, it would probably take half an hour to completely devour the energy in the pool. Half an hour, Ning Yu frowned slightly and unleashed his peak 5th grade soul power, paying close attention to any sudden changes. To put it bluntly, Ning Yu was on guard against Wei Zongtian. Wei Zongtian clearly knew that the golden box contained a young heaven-devouring dog, but he did not say anything. He probably had some ulterior motives. Before the young heaven-devouring dog rushed out of the golden box, Ning Yu would not allow Wei Zongtian to do anything out of line. Therefore, Ning Yu took on the responsibility of protecting them. Half an hour wasn't long, but it wasn't short either. At the very least, for the golden box, it had completed its entire transformation in half an hour. Every 5 minutes, one of the keys on the golden box would be broken by the powerful energy. Ka. Half an hour later, the 6 keys around the golden box were all blasted away by the powerful energy. Crack! The moment the 6 key chains were broken, the golden box exploded in front of Ning Yu's horrified eyes. Xiao! Soon after, a white figure dashed out and charged towards Ning Yu. Are you sure it's a heaven-devouring dog? Looking at the white figure that was charging towards him, Ning Yu opened his mouth slightly, his face full of confusion. The white figure was very small, about the size of the Dark Emperor's head. Moreover, its entire body was white, without a single strand of black fur. What shocked Ning Yu the most was that the white little fellow did not have any essence fluctuations. No matter how he looked at it, it did not look like a heaven-devouring dog. Its aura is similar to the Dark Emperor's. It should be a heaven-devouring dog. Oh no. Although the white little fellow did not have any essence fluctuations, the aura it emitted was more familiar to Ning Yu. It was not much different from the Dark Emperor's. However, before Ning Yu could finish his sentence, his expression changed drastically. He hurriedly turned into a shadow and blocked in front of the white little fellow. Buzz! Just as Ning Yu blocked in front of the white little fellow, a cold light tore through the void, blasting towards his chest. Humph! Ning Yu snorted coldly and grabbed at the void with his right hand. Immediately, the red demon's sword appeared in his hand. In the next moment, Ning Yu slashed out with a sword radiance, which collided with the cold light in front of his chest. Pust. The collision of the cold light and the sword radiance did not cause much of a ripple. Both dissipated into the surroundings. Woof woof. Perhaps seeing that Ning Yu was being attacked, the white little fellow barked and wanted to charge out. Wait! Ning Yu whispered to the white little fellow. Then, holding the red demon sword, he charged out of the martial pool and floated in the air, facing Wei Zongtian. As for the white little fellow, it stood on Ning Yu's shoulder and glared at Wei Zongtian. Dean Wei. Ning Yu tried his best to calm himself down and said in a low voice, "What do you mean by doing this?" Nothing much." Wei Zongtian did not hide the burning desire in his eyes as he smiled faintly. "You said that you would give me the golden box after staying in the martial pool for an hour. Now that you've been in the martial pool for 3 to 4 hours, it's time to give me the golden box, right? Old fox, you sure know how to change the subject." Ning Yu despised Wei Zongtian deeply. He thought to himself that the latter was very quick to change the subject. After sorting out his thoughts, Ning Yu's lips curled up and he smiled as well. "Dean Wei, I did say that I would give you the golden box, but now it's completely shattered. If you want, I can piece it back together." As he spoke, Ning Yu pointed at the floating wood chips on the surface of the martial pool and said, "It's not easy to piece them back together. How about this, give me 3 days. 3 days later, I'll come back here again and return you a complete golden box." Ning Yu could clearly see the corners of Wei Zongtian's mouth twitch a few times after hearing his words. Ning Yu did not mind. After all, Wei Zongtian only wanted the golden box and did not want the contents inside. "I can piece the golden box back together myself. Right now, I'm interested in the little fellow on your shoulder." Wei Zongtian's expression completely darkened as he said coldly, "As a student of Danwu College, you don't even listen to me, the dean's words? It's not that I don't want to listen to you, but you haven't answered me. Why did you attack me?" Ning Yu shrugged and said indifferently, "Good, very good, very good." Wei Zongtian was practically gnashing his teeth as he said, "Since you refuse to come to your senses, I'll teach you a lesson." The moment the word "you" fell, Wei Zongtian's figure gradually became illusory. Very quickly, he disappeared. Not good. Seeing Wei Zongtian disappear, Ning Yu's heart trembled and he immediately retreated. Whoosh! However, the speed at which Ning Yu retreated was clearly slower than the speed at which Wei Zongtian tore through space. Ning Yu had only taken 3 steps back when Wei Zongtian appeared beside him. Following that, Wei Zongtian punched, aiming for Ning Yu's heart. Ning Yu was greatly startled. This move from Wei Zongtian was actually intending to kill him. Damn it! At the crucial moment, Ning Yu cursed to himself. He quickly gathered all the essence in his sea of consciousness around his wrist, clashing with Wei Zongtian's fist. Gotcha! Chapter 542. 50% Strength. As the dean, you attacked a student in public. Aren't you afraid that the upper echelons of Danwu College will find out? Ning Yu rubbed his sore right hand and said coldly to Wei Zongtian, "If I make this matter public, I believe it will affect your reputation greatly." Reputation? Haha, you're thinking too much. Wei Zongtian laughed sinisterly. "I've already sealed this place. Even if I kill you here, no one will know." At this point, Wei Zongtian paused for a moment before continuing. "Before you came in, I've already told the Xianming elders that I'm going to give you a great opportunity. If you can endure it, you will improve by leaps and bounds in the future. If you can't, you will vanish into thin air. In short, if you die in the martial pool, the Xianming elders will only say that you are not strong enough. You can't blame others. It seems like you've already arranged everything." Ning Yu was not discouraged by Wei Zongtian's words. Instead, he smiled faintly and said, "However, there's one thing you didn't think of." "What did I not think of?" Wei Zongtian raised his eyebrows and stared at Ning Yu with interest. "Come out." In the next moment, Ning Yu threw the storage ring into the air and shouted, "Swish! Swish! Swish!" As Ning Yu spoke, 3 figures rushed out of the storage ring and landed steadily in front of Ning Yu. Hiss! Wei Zongtian could not help but gasp when he felt the powerful primal chi waves from the 3 figures in front of Ning Yu. 2 peak late-stage Yin-Yang realm and 1 peak mid-stage Yin-Yang realm. Furthermore, that peak mid-stage yin-yang realm martial artist had a pair of frightening evil eyes. With such a luxurious lineup, it was no wonder that Ning Yu was so confident. Do you think you can contend against me with just them? Although Wei Zongtian was extremely shocked, his expression did not change at all. He was still as calm as an ancient well. In this place, I am the absolute ruler. As Wei Zongtian spoke, the essence in the secret room became berserk. In an instant, the berserk essence energy surged towards Wei Zongtian. Before Ning Yu's astonished gaze, Wei Zongtian opened his mouth wide and swallowed all the surrounding essence into his stomach. Buzz! When the essence entered his stomach, Wei Zongtian's aura soared like a rocket. Intermediate yin-yang realm. Late yin-yang realm. Peak late yin-yang realm. Bang! Next, a muffled sound rang out from Wei Zongtian's body. Wei Zongtian's aura broke through from the peak late-stage yin-yang realm to the peak yin-yang realm. An illusory figure actually possesses the aura of peak yin-yang realm. The powerful aura radiating from Wei Zongtian caused Ning Yu's heart to sink to the bottom. Even the illusory figure had the aura of a peak yin-yang realm expert. From this, it could be seen how powerful Wei Zongtian's main body was. At the very least, his cultivation was at the half-step manifestation realm. There was even a high possibility that he had reached the creation realm. Before I die, I'll let you know why you're dying. Wei Zongtian cracked his neck and said to Ning Yu, actually, I noticed you the first time you came to Wu Qi. To be more precise, I noticed that black sky-devouring dog. However, its bloodline is not as good as the sky-devouring dog on your shoulder. That's why I asked you to search for the real Wu Qi and bring the little white guy here. A large portion of the Dan Wu Academy's secrets that I told you previously were fake. My real body and Chu Tianming's were trapped in the demonic dragon ruins and were unable to leave. Thus Chu Tianming and I thought of this method. We used a secret technique to send my clone out of the demonic dragon ruins. Then, we thought of a way to raise the strength of this clone to the half-step manifestation realm before returning to rescue our main body. Originally, I was worried that devouring the little white guy on your shoulder would not allow me to advance to the half-step manifestation realm. Now, it seems that I was overthinking. The corners of Chu Tianming's mouth curled up. He stared at the Alchemist Hall Master and the others and said with a smile, with these warriors, I can even try to break through to the real manifestation realm. You're thinking too much. Unless your main body's strength reaches the mid-stage manifestation realm, it is impossible for this clone of yours to advance to the manifestation realm. Ning Yu said in a deep voice, looks like today is destined to be a fierce battle, ha ha ha. Wei Zongtian laughed maniacally at the sky. Then, he said sinisterly, fierce battle? With just you small fries? As he laughed maniacally, Wei Zongtian's figure flashed and appeared in front of Ling Mian in the blink of an eye. Wei Zongtian threw a punch. Under Ling Mian's horrified gaze, his fist hit Ling Mian's chest. Bang! Ling Mian did not expect Wei Zongtian to be so fast. In a moment of carelessness, he was hit by Wei Zongtian's fist and was sent flying. Ling Mian only stopped when his body hit the wall of the secret chamber. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his aura became slightly weak. It was clear that Ling Mian was severely injured. His strength had dropped by 60%. Ning Yu, hand over the little white fellow on your shoulder. On account that you are a student of Danwu College, I can erase your memory and let you leave. After succeeding in his attack, Wei Zongtian did not continue attacking. Instead, he said, how about it? Think about it. I have already been extremely benevolent to you. Is that so? Seeing Wei Zongtian stop, Ning Yu laughed instead. His laughter was somewhat unbridled. That attack just now should have exhausted 50% of your essence, right? The corners of Ning Yu's mouth curled up as he said, if I did not guess wrongly, you should be doing your best to recover right now. You. Hearing Ning Yu's words, Wei Zongtian's expression changed drastically. This was because Ningyu was right. That attack just now had indeed used 50% of his strength. Right now, his situation was very bad. It was impossible for him to recover to his peak state without 10 minutes. Ningyu, I have to admit that your eyes are very sharp. If not for the situation, I would really want to take you in as my disciple. Wei Zongtian took a deep breath and calmed down instead. However, Wei Zongtian's tone changed as he said coldly, even if I only have 50% of my strength left, killing the 2 cultivators beside you is still a piece of cake. Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue with your big words? Ningyu's eyes turned cold. Then, he said to the alchemist hall master and the others, take down Wei Zongtian. Wait. Before the alchemist hall master and Evil Eye made a move, Wei Zongtian extended his right hand and said sinisterly, if you do not want Lu Wei to be killed, you can choose to attack me. You are threatening me. Ningyu's expression turned completely cold. Actually, it is not really a threat, Wei Zongtian said indifferently. I already told the Xianming 2 elders that if they do not see me tomorrow morning, then there is no need for Lu Wei to exist. Ka. Chapter 543. Surprise. This thought had just appeared in Ningyu's mind when it took root. It grew stronger and stronger, and he could not get rid of it. Woof, woof. The little white creature on Ningyu's shoulder sensed Ningyu's rage. It leaped up and hovered in the air, barking at Wei Zongtian while barking. Ha ha. Bark then. If you don't, you might not get another chance. Hearing the little white creature's barking, Wei Zongtian smiled sinisterly. If time permits, I really want to raise you and devour you after you have grown a little. Unfortunately, I do not have much time left. If I do not return to the demonic dragon ruins soon, my main body will be exhausted. Wei Zongtian, no matter how calculative you are, you might have missed something. Ningyu said in a deep voice, if Xianming Patriarch and Xianming Patriarch do not see you tomorrow morning, they will kill Lu Xuan. If I go and save Lu Xuan now, there won't be so many problems. Ah! Wei Zongtian threw his head back and guffawed again. Do you think that you can kill this body of mine and leave the secret chamber in the remaining 2 hours? How laughably naive. Noisy. Ningyu's tone turned cold. Then, he said to Evil Eye, leave the secret chamber. You must rescue Lu Wei. Understood. Evil Eye did not dare to tarry. It quickly turned around and flew out of the secret chamber. Bang. However, just as Evil Eye reached the exit of the secret chamber, it seemed to touch a layer of restriction and bounced back. A barrier? Looking at the barrier that appeared at the exit of the secret chamber, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. Evil Eye, how long will it take for you to break the barrier? Ningyu asked. Whoosh. 1 hour. Evil Eye's eyes gleamed coldly as it replied. Alchemist Hall Master, help me stop Wei Zongtian. Ningyu gritted his teeth, gripped the red demon sword in his hand, and took the initiative to attack Wei Zongtian. Seeing Ningyu make his move, the Alchemist Hall Master did not dare to slack off in the slightest. He immediately rushed out, following behind Ningyu and fighting with Wei Zongtian. Rumble! Although Wei Zongtian's illusory body only had 50% of its strength left, its cultivation was still at the peak of the Yin-Yang realm. Unexpectedly, it was able to fight to a draw with Ningyu and the others. To Ningyu, being able to fight Wei Zongtian's illusory body to a draw was already a pleasant surprise. After all, the Evil Eye was doing its best to break the barrier. As long as the Evil Eye could save Lu Wei and return to the secret room to join forces with him, they would definitely have the upper hand. Actually, Ningyu had also considered letting the demonic eye deal with Wei Zongtian first before breaking the barrier. However, this idea was quickly rejected by Ningyu. Unrealistic. There were still 2 hours before daybreak, and the Evil Eye needed an hour to break the barrier. Ningyu did not dare to guarantee that the 3 of them could deal with Wei Zongtian within an hour. Therefore, to be on the safe side, Ningyu decided that he and the alchemist hall master would hold Wei Zongtian back, while the evil eye broke the barrier and saved Lu Wei first. Woof, woof! While Ningyu fought with Wei Zongtian, the little white fellow floated left and right in the air, barking at Wei Zongtian non-stop. Humph! I will swallow you first. Wei Zongtian snorted coldly, then forcefully pushed back Ningyu and the alchemist hall master as he flew towards the little white fellow. Swish! Wei Zongtian's speed was very fast, so fast that Ningyu could not stop him. He could only shout, "Retreat quickly!" Buzz! In the next moment, Ningyu discovered that his worries were completely unnecessary. When the little white fellow saw Wei Zongtian flying towards it, it actually made a face at Wei Zongtian. Then, it tore through the void and entered. A young heaven-devouring dog can tear through the void? The sudden change not only stunned Ningyu, but even Wei Zongtian was rooted to the spot. Wei Zongtian knew that a mature heaven-devouring dog could tear through the void, but he never expected that a young heaven-devouring dog could also tear through the void. A good chance. Seeing that Wei Zongtian was stunned, Ningyu was delighted. He immediately channeled the essence in his sea of consciousness into the red demon sword. In order not to miss this opportunity, Ningyu even wrapped his blue spirit fire and soul power around the red demon sword. Go! As Ningyu shouted, the red demon sword left his hand. Crack! However, the moment the red demon sword left Ningyu's hand, it tore through the void and entered. Not good. It's a king-grade flying sword. Only when the red demon sword entered the void did Wei Zongtian recover from his shock. He hurriedly retreated. Although Wei Zongtian's retreating speed was fast enough, he was still half a beat slower than the red demon sword. Pooh! In the next instant, the red demon sword appeared in the void beside Wei Zongtian, piercing Wei Zongtian's left arm. Arg! Wei Zongtian screamed like a pig being slaughtered. He raised his right hand and forcefully chopped off his left arm. Hiss! Wei Zongtian's decisiveness shocked Ningyu, but that was all. Ningyu would definitely not miss such a good opportunity. With his left arm chopped off, Wei Zongtian's strength would drop by at least 30%. In other words, Wei Zongtian's current strength was only equivalent to 20% of his peak. At his peak, Wei Zongtian's illusory body had the strength of a peak yin-yang realm expert. Now, he only had 20% of his strength left. The alchemist hall master and Ningyu joined forces and naturally defeated him easily. Ningyu, I've changed my mind. Let me go, and I promise not to devour that little white fellow anymore. Moreover, I'll let you leave this place. After being defeated, Wei Zongtian seemed to have changed into a different person. He said, "No matter what, I'm still the first dean of Danwu College. Just treat it as if nothing happened." "Dean Wei, can I ask you a question?" Ningyu first gave the alchemist hall master a look, indicating for him to help demonic eye break the barrier. Then, he looked at Wei Zongtian. "What question?" Wei Zongtian asked doubtfully. "Do I look like a fool to you?" Ningyu said. "No," Wei Zongtian said without even thinking. "Oh, since I don't look like a fool, then I'm sorry, but there's no need for you to stay." Ningyu nodded. Then, grasping the red demon sword, he charged at Wei Zongtian. "Ningyu, you can't," Wei Zongtian shouted crazily when he saw Ningyu charging at him. However, before he could finish his sentence, he stopped abruptly. His figure gradually became illusory. "Ningyu, the red demon sword has devoured Wei Zongtian's illusory body. It's already showing signs of recovering to its peak state. Quickly find me a quiet place. I want to break through." The red demon sword's voice rang out in Ningyu's ear. Hearing this, Ningyu was first stunned. Then, he revealed a look of wild joy. The red demon sword was currently a peak king rank flying sword. If it could break through, wouldn't it advance to the royal rank? Chapter 544. Help, a quiet place, huh? Ningyu rolled his eyes and said to Evil Eye, "How much longer will it take to break the barrier?" "Soon, soon. I will need at most 10 minutes to break the barrier." Evil Eye replied as it worked hard to break the barrier. "After Wei Zongtian's illusory body died in battle, this barrier has obviously weakened a lot. If Ling Mian and the rest help, I can break the barrier in 3 minutes. Then what are you waiting for?" Ningyu said in a deep voice, "Ling Mian, Alchemist Hall Master, quickly go and help Evil Eye." "Understood." The Alchemist Hall Master and Ling Mian did not dare to delay. They hurried to Evil Eye's side and worked together to break the barrier. "Red Devil, how confident are you this time?" Ningyu tried his best to calm himself down and said, "Also, what do you need? I will prepare it for you." The Red Devil Sword's advancement to the Monarch stage was very important. Ningyu would not allow any mistakes. "Essence crystals, a huge amount of essence crystals. Give me as many as you have." Red Devil did not stand on ceremony with Ningyu and said directly, "A conservative estimate is at least 200,000 Supreme Essence crystals." Ningyu was a little dumbfounded. He had gone through a lot of trouble to obtain the 80,000 Supreme Essence crystals that Sun Jiangwen needed. Where could he find 200,000 Supreme Essence crystals now? The energy in the martial pool had been devoured by the little white fellow. The martial pool was now an empty shell. Other than the clear pool water, there was not even a strand of hair left. 200,000 Supreme Essence crystals. Even if he went to snatch it now, it would be too late. "You have 3 days. You just have to get the essence crystals within 3 days." Perhaps seeing Ningyu's predicament, Red Devil continued, "The Red Devil Sword has absorbed Wei Zongtian's illusory body and has sufficient energy. The most important thing now is to find a quiet place." Fortunately, Ningyu heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he had 3 days to find Supreme Essence crystals. Otherwise, he would have wasted such a good opportunity. "Can I use my storage ring?" Although there were still 3 days left, the quiet place made things difficult for Ningyu. He couldn't possibly leave Red Fiend here, right? "It's possible, but the Red Devil Sword will cause a magic treasure tribulation when it advances to the Monarch rank. At that time, you'll have to find another place." The Red Devil pondered deeply for a moment before he said, "I'm afraid my spatial ring won't be able to endure the tribulation of a Monarch rank magic treasure. Enter the ring first. As for a quiet place, I'll look for it after we leave the Danwu pool," Ningyu said. Whoosh! The Red Demon didn't stand on ceremony with Ningyu. It immediately fused with the Red Demon Sword and transformed into an afterimage before entering the storage ring. Crack! At this moment, the Evil Eye sent a report of victory. The barrier at the exit of the secret room was destroyed by the combined efforts of the Evil Eye and the Alchemist Hall Master. "You guys go into the storage ring as well. I'm going to find Elder Xian Ming." The instant the barrier was broken, Ningyu rose from the ground and rushed out of the secret room. The Elder Xian Ming were only at the initial stage of the Yin-Yang realm. With Ningyu's current strength, he naturally didn't need the Evil Eye's help. Moreover, the Elder Xian Ming guarded the Danwu pool all year round. Ningyu didn't want to kill them. He only needed to save Lu Wei and seal their mouth. The Evil Eye and the Alchemist Hall Master's appearance would only make things worse. Whoosh! After leaving the secret room, Ningyu didn't stop at all. He immediately unleashed his perception and followed the Elder Xian Ming's aura. "Old Man Xian, why do you think the old dean is so concerned about Ningyu?" In the secret room where Dan Qi was, 2 old men were conversing. One of them looked at the girl floating on the surface of the pool and said in confusion, "Not only did he allow Ningyu to enter the martial pool unconditionally, he even treated his little girlfriend so well and made an exception to let him enter the Dan Qi to cultivate. Old Man Ming, why do you care so much?" The old man called Old Man Xian mumbled, "We just need to watch over Lu Wei. Due to our bestowments, she directly ascended to the great completion of the Khanate level. As for the power of the soul, she should be able to rise to the third rank this time. It's not that I care too much. Elder Ming frowned. Have you forgotten what the old dean said to us? I'm going to gift Ning Yu a great fortune. If we don't see Ning Yu tomorrow morning, it means that he has most likely perished in the martial pool. I'm more optimistic about Ning Yu. Didn't he come out of the martial pool the last 2 times? He'll definitely make it through this time. Elder Xian said, I wonder what level Ning Yu's cultivation will have risen to when he emerges from the martial pool. Elder Xian's expression changed greatly before he'd even finished speaking. He stared fixedly at the entrance of the secret room and unleashed all of his aura. Elder Ming didn't remain idle either. He shot to his feet with a swoosh and looked warily at the entrance. Seniors, I bear no ill will. Ningyu took a deep breath and slowly walked into the secret room. Ningyu had heard the conversation between the Xianming elders loud and clear. Ningyu had been worried that the Xianming elders would know something they shouldn't, but now it looked like he'd been overthinking things. What Wei Zongtian said about Lu Xuan must have been a lie. He was trying to stall for time. Since the Xianming elders didn't know about Wei Zongtian's scheme, there was no need for Ningyu to make a move against them. He only needed to take Lu Wei away and tell them that Wei Zongtian had left. Ningyu. The Xianming elders widened their eyes in surprise when they saw the familiar figure in front of them. Didn't the dean say that he'd give Ningyu a great opportunity? Why didn't Ningyu's cultivation change much? Ningyu, where's the dean? Why didn't he come out with you? Elder Xian asked doubtfully. The dean has left. Ningyu sighed softly and shook his head. Just now, the dean seemed to have received some news and suddenly tore through the void and left the martial pool. As for where he went, I don't know either. What? The dean has left? The Xianming elders flew into a rage and jumped up when they heard Ningyu's words. They'd just touched the threshold of the mid-stage Yin-Yang realm, and the dean had left? Before the dean left, he instructed us not to tell anyone about what happened here. After pondering for a moment, Ningyu said, before the dean left, he told me that the reason why the two of you haven't been able to advance to the mid-stage Yin-Yang realm isn't because you don't have enough energy, but because your state of mind has been restricted. In order to completely dispel the Xianming elders' doubts, Ningyu felt that he should give them some pointers. Sometimes it's not good to rely on external forces too much. Ningyu explained, you've been relying on the dean too much, which is why you haven't been able to advance to the mid-stage Yin-Yang realm. The Xianming elders fell into deep thought when they heard this. After a while, 2 powerful auras emerged from the Xianming elders' heads at the same time. Ningyu was stunned when he saw this. The Xianming elders had actually advanced from the early stage Yin-Yang realm to the mid-stage Yin-Yang realm because of what he said. Chapter 545. Gratitude. After advancing to the Yin-Yang realm, the Xianming elders' auras became more vigorous. Every breath they took, energy flowed through their bodies, and their mental state underwent a huge change. You've woken me up. Elder Xian took a deep breath, unable to conceal the excitement in his eyes. Yeah, if not for the dean's concern for us, we would have needed at least another year or 2 to reach the Yin-Yang realm, Elder Ming said gratefully. It's all thanks to the dean that I was able to reach the Yin-Yang realm this time. I've decided to stay in the Dan Wu pool for the next 2 years and won't go anywhere else. Elder Xian's tone was firm, as if Wei Zongtian was his second parent. Ningyu was speechless. He was the one who gave them advice, all right? In the end, Wei Zongtian took all the benefit. But that was fine. This way, the Xianming elders wouldn't be so suspicious anymore. Ningyu, no matter what you've contributed this time, you can come to the Dan Wu pool to cultivate any time in the future. The Xianming elders still had some conscience. They didn't forget about Ningyu. Apart from you, all your friends and relatives can enter the Dan Wu pool to cultivate unconditionally. At this point, Elder Xian felt it was too much, so he added, Of course, your friends can only enter the Dan Wu pool for an hour every month. They won't have the same treatment as you. Thank you, seniors. But Ningyu first thanked the Xianming elders, then said hesitantly, there might be some problems with the Dan Wu pool. What problems? When the dean left, he accidentally absorbed all the energy in the Dan Wu pool, Ningyu said carefully. I thought it was something serious. It's just a small matter. At first, Ningyu was worried that the Xianming elders would go berserk. Who would have thought that they wouldn't take it seriously? This was especially so for Elder Xian. He smiled and said, let me put it this way. The energy in the martial reservoir was only temporarily sucked dry. When you come back in 3 days, you'll realize that everything has returned to normal. The energy in the martial reservoir hasn't decreased at all. This was the first time Ningyu had heard of such a thing. For a moment, Ningyu's mind became active. Upgrading the Red Demon Sword to the Emperor stage required 200,000 pieces of supreme-grade origin crystals. Why not return to the martial pool 3 days later and absorb all the energy inside? Ningyu, stay here and look after your little girlfriend. We've just advanced to the middle stage of Yin-Yang realm and need to stabilize our cultivation, so we won't be accompanying you here. Just as Ningyu was letting his imagination run wild, the words of the Xianming elders echoed in his ears. Whoosh, whoosh. Without waiting for Ningyu's reply, the Xianming elders hastily flashed out of the secret room and disappeared. After the Xianming elders left, Ningyu sorted out his thoughts and walked to the side of the pill pool. Lu Wei floated on the surface of the elixir pool. The pool water only reached her ankles. Her cultivation has reached the connate great perfection, and the strength of her soul power has reached the peak of grade 2. She's only 1 step away from advancing to grade 3. Feeling the aura emanating from Lu Wei, Ningyu nodded in satisfaction. Ningyu clearly remembered that the last time he saw Lu Wei, her cultivation was only at the early stage of connate. Only a few hours had passed, and her cultivation had risen to the peak of connate. It seemed that the Xianming elders had helped a lot. At the very least, they had given Lu Wei enlightenment. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Lu Wei's cultivation to improve so much in such a short time. Although enlightenment can improve cultivation in a short time, it's more troublesome to stabilize it. After pondering for a while, Ningyu murmured, I have to find a chance to help her stabilize her cultivation. Then, Ningyu sat cross-legged and began to circulate the spiritual art to replenish the origin qi he had consumed. In his battle with Wei Zongtian, Ningyu had expended a great deal of energy. It was impossible for Lu Wei to raise her soul power to grade 3 in a short time, so Ningyu decided to use this time to restore her cultivation to peak condition. While Ningyu was slowly recovering, Lu Wei's soul power slowly rose on the surface of the elixir pool. Bam! 2 hours passed in the blink of an eye. A muffled sound came from Lu Wei's body. Lu Wei opened her eyes, and her soul power poured out in full force. Early grade 3 soul power. Although Ningyu was doing his best to recover, he still paid attention to Lu Wei's condition. The moment Lu Wei's soul power broke through to grade 3, Ningyu shot to his feet with a whoosh, a look of pleasant surprise on his face. Ningyu, where are my parents? Lu Wei didn't even have time to be happy when she saw Ningyu standing in front of her. When she saw Ningyu, Lu Wei naturally wanted to ask about her parents. Heh, don't worry. I said I could save your parents, so I will definitely save them. Ningyu smiled faintly and said to Lu Wei, your parents are in the storage ring. Go reunite with them first, swoosh. Before Ningyu could finish speaking, Lu Wei's figure flashed and she rushed toward Ningyu. Holy shit! Ningyu didn't dare tarry. He hurriedly tossed the storage ring into the air and opened it at the same time. A beam of light rushed out from the storage ring and enveloped Lu Wei, bringing Lu Wei into the storage ring. After Lu Wei entered the storage ring, Ningyu couldn't leave by himself and could only wait here. Yan Hui and Dongfang Ji knew that Lu Wei came to the Dan Wu pool. If Ningyu left by himself, it would inevitably arouse suspicion. Ningyu decided to wait for Lu Wei to come out before leaving the Danwu pool together. Swish. However, just when Ningyu wanted to sit down, Lu Wei rushed out from the storage ring. Ningyu, tell me the truth. Do you have a way to refine the revival pill? Lu Wei's face was filled with anxiety. Her first sentence was to ask about the revival pill. Ningyu scratched his head and said, I have a way. Sun Jiangwen was a peak 7th grade elixir master, and the alchemist Hall master was an early stage 8th grade elixir master. With their help, in addition to his soul force being raised to the 6th grade, there was a way to refine it. Ningyu, I beg you. Lu Wei bit her lips. She wanted to beg Ningyu for help, but she hesitated. Through the conversation with her father, Lu Durong, she knew that her family was in decline, and all their resources were in his hands. Now, only her parents were left. Why would Ningyu help her? Moreover, even if Ningyu was willing to help, the herbs needed to refine the revival pill were too many. At least, it would be difficult to gather them in a short period of time. Don't say anything. Your problem is my problem. Ningyu knew what Lu Wei was thinking. He waved his hand and said, Back in Dan Dragon Valley, if it wasn't for you guys, I probably wouldn't be alive now. Leave the matter of refining the revival pill to me. Just to repay a favor. Chapter 546. Blocking the way. Why don't we leave this place first? Seeing Lu Wei's disappointed expression, Ningyu felt his heart ache. Even a man might not be able to endure what happened to Lu Wei. It was hard to imagine how Lu Wei had survived this period of time. Let's go. Lu Wei took a deep breath and was about to walk out of the secret chamber. Woof woof. However, Lu Wei had only taken a few steps when the little white fellow appeared outside the secret chamber and barked twice. It was only now that Ningyu realized that he had not seen the little white fellow for a long time. He had only cared about saving Lu Wei and did not expect the little white fellow to not be following behind him. Furball? Seeing the little white fellow floating in the air, Lu Wei was slightly taken aback and exclaimed, This is Danwu College's Danwu Pool. Why is Furball here? Woof woof. Hearing how Lu Wei addressed him, the little white fellow was furious and barked at Lu Wei twice. Ahem, Lu Wei, let me introduce you. He is not Furball, but Tun, a small dog. Ningyu coughed twice and explained. Look at his appearance. He is clearly similar to Furball. How is he a dog? Lu Wei pointed at the little white fellow. Looking at the little white fellow floating in the air, Ningyu felt that Lu Wei was right. He indeed looked like a Furball. However, Ningyu was a little suspicious. Back in the Danwu pool, the little white fellow did not look like Furball. Why did it have a bulging belly and look so lazy now? Alright, from now on you will be called Furball. Ningyu directly gave the little white fellow a name, Furball. Furball looked at Ningyu with disdain. He was clearly saying that his name was not Furball but the great heaven-devouring dog. Furball, when you're with Lu Wei in the future, you have to protect her at all times, got it? If I see someone bullying Lu Wei and you don't help, I'll beat you up, Ningyu said solemnly. Woof woof. Furball barked twice before leaping onto Lu Wei's shoulder, baring his teeth at Ningyu. Ningyu was speechless. What an ingrate! How long had it been, and he had already been captured by Lu Wei? Ningyu, Furball is still young. I'll be responsible for protecting him. Lu Wei lovingly hugged Furball and said, You're not allowed to be so fierce to Furball in the future. Furball looked provocatively at Ningyu, his expression as if he had won. Little thing, do you think I can't deal with you? The corner of Ningyu's mouth rose slightly as he transmitted his voice to Furball, Don't even think about getting a single crystal from me in the future. Hearing Ningyu's words, Furball immediately became listless and struggled to leave Lu Wei's embrace. Alright, we'll leave now. Lu Wei tightly hugged Furball and fiercely glared at Ningyu before walking out of the secret room. Ningyu rubbed his nose and followed Lu Wei out of the secret room. At first, Ningyu planned to let Furball enter his storage ring, but after seeing Furball, Ningyu changed his mind. This was because Furball had actually completely concealed its aura. Even with his peak 5th grade soul force, he couldn't find anything special about Furball. After being in contact with the Dark Emperor for so long, Ningyu was already extremely sensitive to the aura of the heaven-devouring dog. Furball could even deceive him. It seemed like no one in the vast capital would be able to discover Furball's true identity. I was wondering who it was. So it's a core disciple of Danwu College. Just as Ningyu was pondering, he and Lu Wei had already arrived at the entrance of the Danwu pool. However, a light chuckle rang out beside his ear. Hearing this, Ningyu raised his head and looked over. In front of him, there was a man around 20 years old with a faint smile on his face. Yi Tian. Looking at the familiar figure in front of him, Ningyu frowned. He then pulled Lu Wei around Yi Tian and walked to the other side. Hee, why didn't you say hello before leaving? Are you looking down on me? Yi Tian said with a faint smile. However, before he finished speaking, he saw Ningyu walking into the distance without looking back. Seeing this, Yi Tian's expression turned completely cold. Stop right there. I want to challenge you. Yi Tian berated. In the alchemy competition last time, I lost to you because I was careless. This time, I won't be careless again. Although this was the entrance to the Danwu pool, there were still many Danwu College martial artists in the surroundings. When everyone heard Yi Tian's berating, they all looked over. There were even some martial artists who started discussing. Aren't those two Ningyu and Yi Tian? Who's the other girl? You don't even know her? The Snow Pavilion's young miss was sent to Dean Dongfang by Ningyu not long ago. Who cares who that girl is? Ever since he lost to Ningyu, Yi Tian has been in closed-door cultivation. This time, he wants to go to the Danwu pool to cultivate. Who would have thought that he would meet Ningyu? There's a good show to watch. I guess Ningyu won't accept the challenge, a true martial realm martial artist said. What do you mean? The martial artist at the side was puzzled. Didn't you guys notice? Yi Tian's soul force has already reached the 5th grade. Hearing this, the surrounding martial artists all focused their attention on Yi Tian. What they saw caused the surrounding cultivators to suck in a breath of cold air. Indeed, compared to the last time, Yi Tian's soul force had increased again, from the peak of the 4th grade to the early stage of the 5th grade. With this soul force, coupled with Yi Tian's alchemy level, it would be very difficult for Ningyu to win again. Ningyu didn't care about the crowd's discussion in the distance. At this time, he stopped where he was, looked at Yi Tian with interest and said, You want to challenge me? Yes. Yi Tian said in a deep voice. Not interested, and I don't have time. Ningyu shrugged and said indifferently. Saying this, Ningyu lifted his leg and was about to leave. Such a good opportunity, how could Yi Tian miss it? His figure flashed, firmly blocking Ningyu's path, and said with a sinister smile, You don't have time, or you don't dare to accept my challenge? Or, you're afraid of losing in front of this person and losing face. Losing in front of a beauty is indeed very shameful. There's nothing wrong with you doing this. Yi Tian's eyes turned, and then he changed the topic and said with a smile, You can leave, but you have to return my square alchemy furnace and admit that you're not my opponent. No, you have to kneel down and admit your mistake. Whoosh. Yi Tian's words directly caused an uproar among the martial artists in the distance. Isn't Yi Tian too arrogant? It's fine if he wants Ningyu to admit defeat, but he actually wants him to kneel down. He's really too much. Too much? The current Yi Tian is qualified to do so. That's right, let me tell you something, but don't tell anyone else. Chapter 547. Ordinary Alchemy Furnace. What? Danshanzi is out? The surrounding martial artists were shocked. When Danshanzi was in closed-door training, it caused quite a commotion in the capital. When Danshanzi was in closed-door training, it caused quite a commotion in the capital. After all, Danshanzi was an early-stage 8th-grade alchemist. Once he came out, it was very likely that he would advance to mid-stage 8th-grade alchemist. Didn't that mean that offending Yi Tian was equivalent to offending a mid-stage 8th-grade alchemist? That was a mid-stage 8th-grade alchemist. Not to mention that Ning Yu was a core disciple of Danwu College. Even if Ning Yu was the holy son of Danwu College, it would still be useless. That's right. The peak of true martial realm martial artist nodded and said, I heard that Danshanzi came out this time because he received an invitation from the president of the Alchemy Union to participate in the alchemy competition. Alchemy competition? Didn't they say it was postponed? Someone asked doubtfully. You're behind the times. The peak of true martial realm martial artist smiled and said, just this morning, the president of the Alchemy Union suddenly announced that the alchemy competition will officially start tomorrow. Swoosh. The surrounding martial artists widened their eyes in surprise. The news from a peak of true martial realm martial artist was too heavy. The alchemy competition had been postponed again, and it was confirmed that it would officially start tomorrow. It was indeed a rare thing. The alchemy competition will start tomorrow anyway. I guess Yi Tian and Ning Yu will have a clear winner today. Someone's words drew the crowd's attention back to Ning Yu and Yi Tian. With Yi Tian blocking his way, Ning Yu simply stopped. Ning Yu did not seem to care about Yi Tian's arrogance. Instead, he said indifferently, these two things may disappoint you. First, I've already sold the square alchemy furnace, so I can't return it to you. Second, you don't have the qualifications to kneel down and apologize to you. I don't have the qualifications? Yi Tian pointed at his own nose and said in a cold voice, aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue? If you have the ability, let's compete again. We will compete in refining the true martial Dan. I have already prepared the herbs. With that, Yi Tian flicked his sleeve and a storage pouch appeared in his hand. There are a total of 2 sets of ingredients for refining the true martial pellet in here. We will decide the winner with 1 set of pellets, Yi Tian said gloomily as he waved the storage bag in his hand. Can I ask you a question? Ning Yu said hesitantly when he saw Yi Tian's determined expression. What problem? Yi Tian asked. My time is very precious. Why should I waste my time to compete with you in refining the true martial Dan? Ning Yu said in a clear voice. The surrounding martial artists were all paying attention to what was happening here. When Ning Yu said this, the surrounding martial artists burst into an uproar again. Why is Ning Yu so arrogant? That's right. Could it be that Ning Yu thinks he can beat Yi Tian? You have to know that Yi Tian is no longer the same as before. His alchemy level has reached the initial stage of grade 5. You don't say. I'm more optimistic about Ning Yu. You're optimistic about Ning Yu? To tell you the truth, Yi Tian is only 1 step away from becoming a middle-stage grade 5 alchemist. That's right. This time, Yi Tian and Ning Yu are competing in refining the true martial Dan. They are completely prepared. I heard that Yi Tian has received guidance from his master. Out of 10 furnaces of true martial Dan, he can refine 3 furnaces of supreme level pellets. Whoosh! This time, the way the surrounding martial artists looked at Yi Tian changed. Out of 10 furnaces of true martial Dan, he could refine 3 furnaces of supreme level pellets. Even some grade 6 alchemists might not be able to refine 1 furnace of supreme level pellets in 10 furnaces. Yi Tian was only a grade 5 alchemist, yet he could achieve this. In the future, he might even reach the height of Danshanzi. The martial artists, whose cultivation was at the peak of the Xiantian realm, started to think about how to get close to Yi Tian and strive to buy a few supreme level pellets from him. After all, supreme-level pellets were priceless. They could not be bought with crystals. Ningyu, are you afraid? Are you afraid of losing to me? Are you afraid of losing face in front of a beauty? Are you afraid of? Yi Tian said coldly. Stop, stop. Ningyu directly interrupted Yi Tian and said, just take it that I'm afraid, okay? If there's nothing else, I'm leaving. Don't block my way. You! The more Ningyu said like this, the angrier Yi Tian got. Ningyu was clearly looking down on him. He was not truly afraid of him. This month, I can still enter the Danwu pool to cultivate for 2 hours. Let's bet on these 2 hours. Yi Tian took out a token from his pocket. It was the token to enter the Danwu pool. Sigh. Seeing the token in Yi Tian's hand, Ningyu sighed lightly and said, since you are so interested, there's no harm in playing with you. Although the Xianming two elders promised Ningyu that he could enter the Danwu pool to cultivate unconditionally, and he could even bring his friends to enter the Danwu pool to cultivate, Ningyu felt that it was not good to owe others favors. If he could win this token from Yi Tian's hands, it would be better for Lu Wei to have an excuse when she entered the Danwu pool to cultivate in the future. It would not attract too much attention. Humph! Take out your cauldron. Yi Tian snorted coldly. He took out a set of ingredients for refining the true martial pill and threw it to Ningyu. Pa! Ningyu caught the ingredients and said to the surrounding students, that, who has a cauldron to lend me? Hearing Ningyu's words, the surrounding martial artists were all dumbfounded. After all this time, Ningyu did not even have a cauldron. No wonder he was unwilling to agree to Yi Tian's request. It was just that due to Yi Tian's master's identity, no one dared to lend their cauldron to Ningyu. I have a cauldron, but the quality is a little lower. Right at this moment, a voice resounded in the area. Ningyu looked at the cauldron in Lu Wei's hand with black lines on his forehead. The cauldron was only the size of a palm and looked very ordinary. Seeing the cauldron in Lu Wei's hand, Yi Tian could not help but laugh out loud. After laughing, Yi Tian said, Ningyu, if you don't have a cauldron, beg me, and I can consider giving you one. This cauldron is clearly a street stall product. It's at most 10,000 high-grade essence crystals. If you use this cauldron to compete with me in refining the true martial pill, even if I win, it will be an unfair victory. No need. Ningyu flatly rejected Yi Tian's good intentions. He took the cauldron in Lu Wei's hand and said indifferently, I will use this cauldron to compete with you in refining the true martial pill. Ningyu, is he stupid? Yeah, using this cauldron to compete with Yi Tian in alchemy, how can he win? That's right, this cauldron can only refine 3rd-grade dawn at most. The true martial pill is a 4th-grade dawn, it's impossible to refine it. That's right, not to mention Ningyu, even if Danshinzi came, he may not be able to use this cauldron to refine the true martial pill. You guys have overlooked one thing. While everyone was discussing, a late-stage true martial realm student said, not only does Ningyu have to use this cauldron to refine the true martial pill, but he also has to refine a transcendent grade true martial pill to have a chance of defeating Yi Tian. Chapter 548. Chapter 548. Arrogance or confidence, ha ha ha. Yi Tian looked up to the sky and laughed. Ningyu, you are still the same as before, arrogant, and condescending. Since you want to die, don't blame me. Yi Tian waved his sleeve, and a golden alchemy furnace appeared in his hand. Whoosh! Looking at the golden alchemy furnace in Yi Tian's hand, the surrounding students of Danwu College all opened their mouths in disbelief. A golden alchemy furnace. Ranked 28th on the Earth list. It's a golden alchemy furnace. Yi Tian came prepared. The golden alchemy furnace was used by Danshinzi when he was young. When did it fall into Yi Tian's hands? Didn't Danshinzi come out of seclusion some time ago? He must have given the alchemy furnace to Yi Tian at that time. With the alchemy furnace, Yi Tian has an 80% chance of refining a supreme true martial pill. What does Ningyu have to compete with him? The discussion of the crowd did not affect Ningyu. It didn't matter if it was a golden alchemy furnace or a silver alchemy furnace, as long as it could refine pills, it was a good alchemy furnace. With such an amazing alchemy furnace, if he couldn't refine a supreme true martial pill, what was the use of it? Ningyu, don't say that I am bullying you. I will let you refine the true martial pill first. Holding the alchemy furnace, Yi Tian said proudly, I will start in 5 minutes. No wonder he is Dan Chenzi's last disciple. He is so slick. Exactly. Yi Tian let Ningyu have 5 minutes. No one will say that he is taking advantage of Ningyu. Yeah, he can divert everyone's attention to refining pills at the right time and make them ignore the difference between alchemy furnaces. Even if you give Ningyu an hour, he won't be able to refine the true martial pill, let alone 5 minutes. The moment Yi Tian took out the alchemy furnace, many students had the same opinion. It was impossible for Ningyu to refine the true martial Dan. It was impossible for him to defeat Yi Tian. Ningyu didn't care what everyone thought of him. Instead, he asked hesitantly, Do you really want me to refine for 5 minutes first? A gentleman keeps his word. Yi Tian raised his eyebrows and said in a clear voice, Idiot. Ningyu glanced at Yi Tian, then immediately threw the alchemy furnace in his hands above his head. At the same time, he poured his soul force into it. Buzz. Following the infusion of Ningyu's soul force, the alchemy furnace gradually became bigger, and finally became the same size as a normal alchemy furnace. Voila! After the alchemy furnace became bigger, Ningyu threw all the herbs needed to refine the true martial Dan into the alchemy furnace. A blue flame appeared on the fingertips of his right hand and began to burn the bottom of the alchemy furnace. Ningyu dares to refine real martial Dan like this? Did you lose your mind? I guess he's just giving up. He knows that it's impossible for him to defeat Yi Tian, so he's using this method to concoct pills. Even if he fails, it'll look better. That must be it. Although Ningyu used this refining method the last time, he was refining pills in the Dan Wu Academy. Seeing Ningyu's crazy actions again, the surrounding students still revealed horrified expressions. After all, Ningyu's method of concoction was too unique. In such a big capital, he was the only one. You won't be so lucky this time. Seeing Ningyu's actions, Yi Tian snorted. In Yi Tian's opinion, the reason why Ningyu was able to refine the supreme grade true martial Dan last time was completely because of luck. Compared to last time, not only did Ningyu's alchemy furnace quality was low, but he also needed to refine a supreme grade true martial Dan to defeat him. Could Ningyu refine a supreme grade true martial Dan? The answer was obviously no. By the way, Yi Tian, can I ask what counts as my victory? At this moment, Ningyu's voice rang in Yi Tian's ears. Does it count as my victory if I refine the true martial Dan before you, regardless of the quality? Hearing that, Yi Tian almost blurted out. However, before he could finish his words, he stopped abruptly. Originally, Yi Tian wanted to say of course, but when he thought of how abnormal Ningyu was, he pondered for a moment and said, As long as you can refine a supreme grade pill before me. No, as long as you can refine a supreme grade true martial pill before me, you win. With so many people watching, Yi Tian felt that it was somewhat unfair to let Ningyu refine a supreme grade true martial Dan. Therefore, he changed his tone and said, With my alchemy skills, I can definitely refine a supreme grade true martial Dan. I've already done my best for you. If you still can't win, it's because you're not capable enough. In that case, I really have to thank you. Ningyu said. Don't thank me. You just need to return the square alchemy furnace to me and kneel down to apologize to me. Yi Tian laughed. It may be too early to say these words. It's not the last moment yet. I can't guarantee that I can refine a supreme grade true martial Dan before you. Ningyu shrugged. Originally, Ningyu wanted to refine a supreme-grade true martial dan. Fortunately, he asked Yi Tian, so he could avoid the embarrassment of refining a supreme-grade true martial dan. Using such a low-quality alchemy furnace to refine a supreme-grade true martial dan, it was estimated that the top management of Danwu College would be shocked. Ningyu didn't want to be in the limelight. Since refining a supreme-grade true martial dan before him would be considered as his victory, Ningyu temporarily changed his alchemy strategy. He lowered the heat and refined the true martial dan unhurriedly. Ningyu's actions made the corners of the mouths of the surrounding martial artists twitch. The alchemy furnace's quality was already low, and he still didn't refine the dan seriously? It would be strange if he could win. Humph! Arrogant, conceited, and condescending, I will make you cry later. Yi Tian was very displeased with Ningyu's behavior. He gave him 5 minutes, but he didn't know how to cherish it. Instead, he wasted it. This could no longer be regarded as arrogance, it was clearly looking down on him. Although refining a supreme-grade true martial dan is relatively slow, refining a supreme-grade true martial dan is relatively fast. Yi Tian was secretly calculating the time. After 5 minutes, I will start refining the highest grade true martial dan. As long as I can refine the highest grade true martial dan one step ahead of him, I can also kill his arrogance. At first, Yi Tian wanted to refine a supreme-grade true martial dan, but considering that refining a supreme-grade true martial dan might take a long time, he temporarily decided to refine a supreme-grade true martial dan. Impact, face-slapping, shock. These were the effects that Yi Tian wanted. Although refining a supreme-grade true martial dan would shock everyone more, it would take a long time. Yi Tian didn't want to wait any longer. He already couldn't wait to see Ningyu's appearance when he was defeated. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Time flew by quickly. 1 minute, 3 minutes. 5 minutes. In the blink of an eye, 5 minutes had passed. Swish. Just after 5 minutes, Yi Tian threw the golden cauldron alchemy furnace above his head, grabbed a medicinal herb with his right hand, and was about to put it into the alchemy furnace. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.